Oh,
Cannot.
okay, okay.
Let's see. At least we have a little light here.
Right, right. Okay, so
Good morning, Bill.
yes, good morning, Stella. And we have a
Buenos
big
días.
meeting today. Uh,
Yes.
I don't know if this, as I said, I don't know if this is because I was a little late getting on because I had to restart my computer, or if it's because we had the clocks change here since last week's meeting, which could throw a lot of people off. Um, at any rate, I think here today, I wanted to, well, let me officially get the show on the road. Ding.
Yes.
I'm Bill Graham. I'm the president of the Rotary Dare to Be Great Global eClub, the go-to place for those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world, the whole world, and daring enough to try. Our session today, really, as has been the case for the last few weeks, has been influenced by events that I discovered really in less than 24 hours ago. There's been so many changes and advances taking place in AI and with robots and so forth in the last weeks and months. We can say really since September things have just been exploding. And that has continued. And so whatever I think on Wednesday, that, oh, let's focus on this. Very often on Friday, I'm seeing things that have taken place that I say, oh, we have to include that. And that's the case this week as well. And so I want to show some examples of how things are going. The last
Please.
few meetings, we is focused on education. We talked about education,
Mhm.
talked about new tools that were coming available for education. And I thought, wow, okay, I can see the path to the future that this is taking in education. And last night, I found some new things that change the where we can go with education and how this
Really?
might affect things.
How
So
come?
what was that?
How come you see changes in the last 24
Well,
hours?
because I try to keep up and watch. There's about now it's almost 2 dozen podcasters that I sort of track because they report on what's happening in the world.
Mhm.
Most of them report on Thursdays. Don't ask me why, but it seems that that is when these have grown from just being um, hobbyists who track what's going on and report to them to businesses. These people have entire staffs of people that are tracking the developments in different directions, that are helping them to go over their scripts of what they intend to accomplish, uh, to actually do the recording. They've got recording teams, and they also have post edit that go through and then take and really make sure their presentations are professional. And it's been interesting to watch that evolve. But uh,
And you're absolutely right. I'm sorry that I
yeah,
interrupt you because mostly in media, Thursday is a very good day because it's coming then the Wednesday, coming Friday, the weekend. And in music, almost is always Friday when
uh-huh.
they launch new music. Then there's a certain algorithms for media, for music, when we start about to download or to launch new content.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
absolutely right. Mhm.
So, but the thing here that I find really fascinating about these new developments is the speed with which they've been taking place, and pretty much every one of the podcasters that I track on a regular basis has been saying, "I can't keep up anymore. I can't keep up anymore." That it. pretty much everybody is struggling with that same thing because um, things are developing in so many different dimensions. You know, you and I were in a meeting the other day talking about an upcoming event and talking about how certain things like AI sort of stream through everything. It's
Absolutely.
touching every aspect. So
Mhm.
even though we want to talk about this kind of problem or that kind of problem or whatever, there's always an element there with regards to
Required.
artificial intelligence that's playing a role. So this is making it so difficult because just to track what's going on in medicine, for example, that's more than a full-time job. If Ashok was here,
Mhm.
I'm sure he would tell us that it's impossible anymore because you've got the whole area of diagnosis that is evolving. You got the area of new medication discovery that's evolving. You got the whole area of
The
genetic
alternative
engineering.
music, natural, I'm sorry, alternative medicine, natural
Yeah.
medicine, all of them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's just one little area. If we take a look here in this last week, a major discussion has been about developing weapons of war, artificial intelligence-driven weapons of war. And just yesterday, some senior military official of the Trump administration described how they are using artificial intelligence in the current war.
Mm.
And um, they also admitted that the attack on Venezuela that would not have been possible without artificial intelligence. So we see no matter how, that's just one other dimension taking place here. And education, of course, is a major one. So I'm thinking here, the main thing that I wanted to discuss here today is because of this rate of change in every single dimension,
Mhm.
most people who are looking, how do I leverage? How do I leverage those developments in what I'm doing? And obviously, there are many, many opportunities to do that, to be able to leverage AI in those ways. But the thing that has me concerned here is not what we can do with AI, but
Mhm.
what AI might do to us.
Mhm.
And the understanding of these various developments, what might that mean for society? We see here there one of the things that is talked about a lot is the impact it's likely to have on jobs. And some people are saying this is horrible. This is horrible. AI is going to eat our jobs, and we're not going to have jobs. How are we going to pay for food? How are we going to pay for this? Um, and then there's surprising a very high percentage of people that say, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it." Hey, throughout history, every time technology has come along and eliminated some jobs, it's always created more new jobs. And the new jobs are almost always better. Or they'll come along and say, "Hey, look, there are certain human traits a machine can never ever replace." And so there'll always be a job. We just need to upskill and reskill, and there'll be no problem. And there are other arguments that people will place out there for why uh, the humans don't have to worry with regards to jobs. And I fear that if if we don't prepare for the possibility that AI could totally disrupt our labor-based economy that we've been using for tens of thousands of years, really. You do something, you get something. The idea that you can get something without doing something is that has never existed. And so. if we don't prepare, and should that come, what are we going to do? What is that going to mean? And so this is why I think it is so important that we really truly discuss that. And I particularly invited people who are skeptical of the idea that AI is going to take jobs, because I want to hear the logic and I want to have a serious discussion with people who are skeptical that AI
Mhm.
is going to take most of the jobs. And
Mhm.
I also want to have the discussion between those people who think that is beautiful. If we don't have to work anymore, because they're seeing it that AI and robots are going to make everything we need. Everything's going to be free. So I don't have to work to survive in the future. My survival is already taken care of by the AI and the robots. And now I'm free to focus on the things I really love and the things I really
I
care about,
love that.
right?
That's a wonderful focus because I don't want to think that we're not going to be, stagnant, not doing anything and
Yep.
starting in the negativity. Oh my God, what am I going to do now? But I would call it a beneficial disruption.
Well, that's exactly where a lot of the leaders of the foundation company or frontier companies in AI, they believe in this. Peter Diamandis is one of the first people that I recall talking about the era of abundance. In fact, he wrote a book about it, and the idea that until now, the world economy is based on scarcity. That's what drives the price of everything because it's scarce. You're willing to pay, and you're willing to pay more for things that are more scarce.
Mhm.
And but if we go into an era of abundance where everything is available, that totally changes the whole dynamic. And this is great if that's what comes about. If it comes about that 1% says you're right, but it all belongs to me, then we've got a serious problem. So hi, Teresa and Stuart. Glad glad you're joining us. I was a
Sorry
little
to be
worried.
late.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry to be late.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're saying that you were late because that means you had an understanding of the right
See
time
the
because
hope.
we were talking earlier around, is this because of the clocks changing last week? Or is this because of that I was a little late? I had to restart my computer and I was a little late joining and I was afraid people were there and then gave up. So
No, I got back from my East Africa trip a couple days ago, so I have a little jet lag, and I have
uh-huh.
a hip surgery
Boy.
on Monday, so I've been busy.
Oh,
Okay.
welcome back.
Yes.
I'm
Glad you're
glad
with
you
us.
rested.
Teresa,
Yeah.
where are you joining us from?
Maybe she has it
Yeah,
programmed and it's only the AI.
maybe you're muted, Teresa. Oh, there you go.
Uh, it's evening here, so I don't know.
Yes.
From Uganda. Yeah,
Uganda.
yes.
Okay, well, I'm
From
glad you're with
Rotary.
us. We are recording the session, so those people who either were here earlier and gave up because I was a little late, or those people that might be joining us later will pick up. We were just talking a little bit about uh, why the focus of today's meeting, the focus of today's meeting was really because of the accelerating change or advances in AI and especially with regards to robots. That the acceleration since especially last, I don't know if I want to say December or September, but really with this last 6 months, the pace of change has picked up so greatly. And in fact, while preparing, I thought earlier on in the week, okay, I've pretty much got nailed down what we'll talk about this weekend. And then as I was mentioning to Stella last night, I was just looking at a couple of new posts that people had posted out there of capabilities, and I went, Wow, that just knocked out my plans because there are a bunch of features that somehow I missed. I didn't see them. And I think what we can do today is look at a couple of examples of some of these changes that are coming and then talk about some because there's too many to show. If I was to try to show all the changes just of the last week, well, maybe within a 4 hour meeting we could do it, but we're not going to do it here in 2 hours. So I think here two of the big things that I saw that maybe I should have recognized them earlier, but I didn't. I'd like to go and show those. So I'm
Hmm.
going to share my screens. In the meantime, here. Um,
I'm super curious already. What exactly we're talking about, besides all the changes that we already have seen and experienced in the last 6 months with AI. And I'm curious what exactly we're heading to.
yeah.
And as I said earlier, for me, all this is a beneficial disruption that will help the humanity to take a new direction for sure. We are already doing it and we don't really want to admit it. But it's obvious.
Yes. Okay. Yes, this is the key thing here. Of course, when we look in our club is um, we're a global club, so our members are from around the world. So when we talk about doing good for our community is the world. So our focus is how can we be of the greatest service to our community, the world. Then, when it comes down to being of the greatest service, as the world's largest organization of business and civic leaders, we have to understand that we can't just assume somebody else is going to come along and fix major problems in the world. We have to look at all the issues. We can't just go and say, "Oh, you know what? Let's focus on malaria. Let's eliminate malaria." Because while we're out there eliminating malaria, climate change may be in the process of eliminating us. And if it's not climate change, it may be AI that's out there eliminating us. So we've really got to look at all of the potential risks and dangers out there facing our world, and at least judge how urgent are these, how likely are they to occur, what are we going to do about them? Any
Well, we
rate.
finally are taking a course into the we. You know, we finally are taking a course consciously how we are going to fix this as a we.
Mhm.
You
Yeah, well,
understand? Because it's not the same to say it
yeah,
like to put it in action.
yes.
And I think finally that's exactly the route that we all have to take
Mhm.
by nature.
Yeah. And you said something that's extremely important that has not existed and does not exist right now in the world, and that is the sense of we. The number one issue we when we look at the world and we look at our little we in our club or in Rotary in general, we have to realize we need to somehow expand the we so it includes all of us around the world.
Well, we
And
are in the streams, Bill, right now. We are in the streams. There's a group of people that believe in the we.
yeah.
There's people that are shaking themselves because they are very much for themselves.
Mhm.
And then when we have these forces, eventually, magnetism, natural magnetism will be like this.
Mhm.
Because that's physics, right? And
Well, we sure
but
hope we sure hope we have to hope for all of these. But like the saying goes, hope for the best, but you've got to plan for the worst. So one of the things we have to understand what the worst could be so that we can make sure that we've got plans, contingency plans that are going to cover everything. Anyway, can all of you see my screen? That is in the middle, it says understand anything. Okay, what this is, the last couple of sessions, we talked about education. We talked about the new service that Google is unleashing for test prep. And they started off with SAT and for most of the world, and for the JEE, the Joint Entrance Examination for all technical universities in India, where um, these are billion-dollar industries that people pay people to help their children get prepared to take these exams. And so Google came out, and it's just the start with these two very widespread exams where you can take practice exams. And they partnered with major companies that are providing guidebooks and things how you can prepare to do well on these exams. And at any rate, they have the thing where you can take practice exams. It will go out there and it will rate how you did in your exam, and then it will make identify your weaknesses, and then make a study plan for how you can overcome those weaknesses. And actually, it will generate explainer videos and things like this to help you master the things you're weak on. So we talked about that, and we talked a little bit about another Google product called Learn Your Way, which was introduced the end of last year, but is something that's rolling out relatively slow. What that is it is animating or automating textbooks, so that you can now, anybody can talk to their textbook. And their goal is to do this throughout all school level materials, so that you can talk to the book. You can ask the book, here, check my understanding. You can ask the book to explain to you in more detail what a certain passage or section of the book really means. And so it's creating this knowledge base there based on the textbook. And with regards to the tests, I understand they're working all of the advanced placement tests, the AP tests that are offered in high schools to be able to get college credits while you're still in high school. They're in the process of adding those tests, practice tests, with the analysis and with the mastery assistance. The CLEP test, that's the college level entrance equivalence, where you can get up to a year's worth of college credits just by testing out. And they're doing the what is it, the GRE, all the master's degree admission testing, the bar exams, the medical exams, all of these, every kind of exam that serves either for qualifying somebody to do something, or to certify their skill or knowledge level in something. So we talked about those last week, and I said, okay, wow, just imagine where we're going to be a year down the road if we have this kind of ability to take any subject and have it analyze exactly what we know, what we don't know, identify our weaknesses, and put together a plan and help us implement that plan to close those knowledge gaps on any subject here. Now, I was talking so far about academic subjects, but maybe it's how to fix my bicycle, or maybe it's what do I do about the leaky faucet here, where we go out and find instructions. And then now we can play this into so many things. Stuart, I was thinking about you, especially with your efforts here on grants, on Rotary grants, and helping people understand what needs to be done. And I can imagine now where you can take people's grant ideas or proposals or project proposals and having basically an expert panel, if you would, they're discussing your project and all the details about your project, and then from that into the grant. So that was pretty wild, I thought.
Yeah, it is, Bill, and it's right on task with what I've been working on. I've had a number of conversations with a couple of platforms on how to develop a personalized learning module. So you give it the framework, the instructions, all the vetted documents, and then it inquires of the requester, of the student. It says, what do you know so far? What are you interested in? What would you like to accomplish? Show me all the documents. The student gives everything to AI, and then it says, oh, okay, now I see where you're headed. Have you considered this? And it gives, and you can prioritize the things it most needs to know first, the initial understandings, the branching of knowledge, and so on, so that AI could lead that. And from my research, Notebook LM plus Gemini plus the artifacts Notebook LM can make
Yep.
are really a great platform, but I don't yet have the ability to have an overarching customized thing that will do all of them. I believe Google recently announced that it can take a folder. I can make sure that Gemini reads everything in the folder, and then of course it can summarize, it can interact with someone, but it's the pieces, the pieces are driving me crazy. The pieces are there, but the overall system is not yet in my hands.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, that with the folders here, ChatGPT just announced that you can now attach folders, Google Docs folders, to a ChatGPT project, and then it will go and everything you discuss then in that project is going to refer back to the entire contents of your folder. I did find here yesterday the limit, though, apparently is 25, I think, 25 documents in a folder. But I still want to keep, because Notebook LM you can attach a folder to, but unfortunately, when you attach the folder, it takes a snapshot of the content. And if the content changes, it's up to you to synchronize. You have to resynchronize the Notebook LM to the folder to pick up all the updates. I heard or I saw a report that the ChatGPT version right now um, always looks at it's always up to date on all the latest changes that took place to your folder. So if you're working on the one hand and saying, okay, I'm gathering all my knowledge in the folder and all my documents there, that'll be up to date. Of course, the difference is the ChatGPT version and putting it in a project does not handle YouTube videos or all kinds of other things that you're
Even audios, yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't take the information out of an audio as a
right,
transcript.
right, exactly. So anyway, this I thought this was a little interesting. I'm going to play this video that something I saw last night. And I haven't had a chance to actually try it myself. And there's a lot of the stuff, if you're trying to really keep up to date on the latest changes, that somebody in a YouTube video says, "Oh, here's the new feature in Notebook LM or this new feature in with Gemini," and then you go and look and you can't find it. And it's because they roll these things out geographically. I don't know exactly how they figure out who's going to get to see what when. But I find out about stuff and I go in and say, well, it's not available to me. and I've got a subscription, so you know what's going on. And then all of a sudden, a couple of days later, I've stopped looking for that thing, and then I click something, and there it is, because the way these things roll out. So this falls into this category here. I've been linking my Notebook LM. I've been using it as knowledge base collection, if you would, and I've been linking it to Gemini, and I've been using that to have discussions where I tie what's going on outside of my notebook to my solid base of knowledge that's inside the notebook. And I've been doing that, but I don't click always every time on all the little icons up at the top to see what they offer. So anyway, I'm talking too much. Let me just go ahead and show this. It's only about 6 or 7 minutes, so let's just go into it.
Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can use Notebook LM together with Gemini Canvas to learn almost any topic in a faster, more dynamic, and more interactive way. Instead of simply reading information, this workflow allows you to transform your materials into interactive web pages, structured explanations, visual summaries, quizzes, and flashcards, making complex topics much easier to understand. By the end of this video, you'll see how this workflow can transform raw information into a clear, structured, and interactive learning experience for almost any subject. So let's get started. So for our first step, we need to build a solid knowledge base. And for that, we're going to start inside Notebook LM. Notebook LM is particularly useful here because it allows us to perform deep research and organize information into a structured notebook that we can later use as our learning source. So let's create a new notebook, and here we'll select deep research and then add this prompt: compile comprehensive information on marketing strategies, including major frameworks, and modern digital marketing strategies. Include definitions, key concepts, examples from well-known companies, and important principles used to design effective marketing strategies. Once the research is complete, we then import the sources into our notebook. So now that we have our sources ready, let's move to step 2. The next step is to transform that research into a structured learning experience. So let's head over to Gemini. Here we'll select Add Files, then choose Notebook LM, and select the strategic marketing notebook that we created earlier. Next, we activate the Canvas feature, then we'll add this prompt: create a structured learning plan for understanding marketing strategies, organized from foundational concepts to practical application. The plan should include sections covering the definition of marketing strategy, why it is important in business, and how it differs from marketing tactics.
Work today is broken. Every day, people juggle so many different tools just to get work done.
And now we'll generate, and once it's done, Gemini generates a structured learning report directly inside our workspace. A clear learning document built from the research sources we gathered, but this is where things start to get interesting because Canvas allows us to transform this report into multiple learning formats. First, let's take a quick look at this output. You can see that Gemini has organized the topic into clear learning modules. It starts with the foundations of marketing strategy, then moves through key frameworks like STP, the 4 Ps, customer journey mapping, and brand positioning. Each section includes concise explanations, real-world examples, and even visual concepts that can easily be turned into diagrams and learning materials. Now that we have our structured learning report, the real advantage of Canvas is what we can do with it next. Instead of just reading the report, we can start transforming it into different learning formats. So if we come up here, you'll see the create options available in Canvas. From the same report, we can generate.
Okay, this is something that I had not paid attention to. Under Canvas, when you're in Canvas mode in Gemini, that you have all this very similar to the types of artifacts that you can do in Notebook LM, you can now do directly in Gemini.
Generate things
You're
like web
limited.
pages.
What's that?
I was going to say, you're limited here. Like audio overview, can you choose the type, the length, and give it instructions?
Well, that's what we're going to see here.
Okay.
Infographics and quizzes, flashcards, and audio overviews, visual.
Oh, and notice this, describe your own app. So, yeah, you have all these things, but you can go ahead and say, I want something different.
Explanations. So we're going to convert this report into a website, which is a great way to turn the learning content into a visual learning experience. Okay, so now Gemini has converted the report into a fully structured learning website. So now let's click on share and copy the link and open our website. On the left, we have a navigation menu that organizes the topic into clear sections, starting with the foundation.
Hold on a minute. I'm just going to go back a second here because I don't know if she's going to come back and talk about something that's really important. Now, you notice when you're in Canvas, and it's similar to ChatGPT Canvas as well. When you're in Canvas here, what it did is you've got this report on the right-hand side of your screen, and on the left-hand side, you're talking to Gemini. So you can talk to Gemini about the artifact that got created, and you're going to be able to say, well, that's not quite what I had in mind, and you're going to be able to tweak it. So I just want to, I think she covers that, but I just in case that not, I just wanted to point that out because this is extremely powerful to be able to have this split screen where you're talking to Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, they all work similar, about what's on the other side of the screen.
Into a visual learning experience. Okay, so now Gemini has converted the report into a fully structured learning website. So now let's click on share and copy the link and open our website. On the left, we have a navigation menu that organizes the topic into clear sections, starting with the foundations of marketing and then moving through the key frameworks like STP, the 4Ps, the customer journey, and brand positioning. Inside each section, the information is presented in a very structured and visual way. For example, here in the foundation section, we get a clear explanation of what a marketing strategy is, along with key concepts like resource allocation and competitive advantage. As we move to the STP framework, Gemini breaks the model into the 3 core stages: segmentation, targeting, and positioning. We can see the 4Ps marketing mix presented as an interactive framework. You can see that Gemini has also added visual elements and interactive components to help explain the concepts. For example, here in this model, we have a visual funnel with a graph showing how audiences move from attention to interest to desire and finally action. And then we have an interactive customer journey map with typical touch points and examples. And finally, Gemini even generates a brand positioning map showing how different companies are positioned across attributes like price and perceived quality. So instead of a static article, the content becomes a visual learning guide with charts, frameworks, and interactive components that make the ideas much easier to explore. But this is just one way to use the report, because from the same content, we can also generate quizzes, flashcards, and other learning tools. So let's use another powerful learning feature, which is the quiz, so we can actively test our understanding of the learning material. So from the Create menu, we select Quiz, and Gemini automatically analyzes the report and generates a set of questions based on the key concepts. As you can see here, the quiz presents scenario-based questions.
Okay, so what we see is from that, we created a report, we created a knowledge base. Then we went in and said, okay, with one prompt, create this report out of the content of my knowledge base. And then we went and said, okay, create a website. I think you would agree with me. That's a pretty amazing website that it created here from one stupid little click. That it took that report and did that. Now, keep in mind, we could have tweaked the report because we could have said, oh, wait a minute, you didn't include this aspect or you didn't include that. We could have done that through, because the report was showing the right-hand side of our screen, the left-hand side of the screen, we're talking to Gemini. We could have said, Gemini, you forgot that point, or you didn't mention that, or you needed to increase the focus on a particular aspect, and it would have modified the report before we then said, okay, now we're satisfied. Yes, those are the messages that we want to get across. And now we go and say, okay, now create the website. So we had one report and now we're doing a whole bunch of stuff with it. So the website was the first. So now we're into the quiz aspect.
Not just simple definitions. Once you answer, Gemini immediately shows feedback. You can see here that the correct answer is highlighted and the tool explains why it is correct. This kind of instant feedback helps reinforce the concept immediately so that we can correct misunderstandings before moving on. Another helpful feature is the hint option. If you're unsure about a question, you can click Show Hint, and Gemini will provide a clue that guides you toward the concept without revealing the answer directly. You can also see the progress bar at the top, which shows how far you are through the quiz and tracks correct and incorrect answers. So instead of passively reading a report, the content becomes interactive learning where you can test your understanding directly inside Gemini. Once the quiz is complete, Gemini also provides a performance summary. You can see your overall score, accuracy, and a breakdown of correct, incorrect, and skipped questions. And if we come here and click Analyze My Performance, Gemini.
This is pretty powerful to be able to say, I took this whole quiz and I know the statistics is one thing, but now analyze my performance. So I understand what's going on.
Reviews the answers and highlights your strengths and the areas that need more attention. It identifies concepts that were understood correctly, while also pointing out frameworks that may need a bit more review. This turns the quiz into more than just a score. It becomes diagnostic feedback that helps guide what to study next. And from here, you can continue learning by generating flashcards, a study guide, or additional practice questions based on the same material. So let's generate the flashcards. Each card presents a key concept or question on the front, and when you click Answer, it reveals the explanation on the back. This makes it easy to quickly review important ideas and test whether you remember the concepts correctly. You can also select Track Learning, and when this is enabled, Gemini keeps track of your responses and helps you focus more on concepts that need additional review. So these flashcards turn the material into a quick revision tool, allowing you to repeatedly test and reinforce key concepts. And we can also select the study guide, which will generate a structured summary of the material, helping you review the key frameworks and ideas in a more organized format. It also provides a vocabulary list of the main concepts, along with review questions to help reinforce your understanding of the material. So instead of going back to the original report, you now have a condensed study resource that brings the main ideas together and makes it easier to review the material quickly. And the great thing is that you can always go back and access everything later. So all of the resources you generate, like the quiz or flashcards and study guide, are saved in the right-hand panel. So at any time, you can quickly return to your learning plan, review your study guide, or continue practicing with flashcards and quizzes without having to recreate them. This makes it very easy to build a small learning library around any topic you're studying. And that's it, a simple way to create a complete learning system. In just a few steps, we went from our sources in Notebook to a structured learning plan, interactive web page, quizzes, flashcards, and a study guide. Instead of passively reading information, you're now actively learning, testing your understanding, and reinforcing key concepts. If you found this useful, make sure to like the video.
Okay. So what are your thoughts? Stuart, you said you were looking for something that lets you sort of pull stuff together. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, as with Notebook on Land, it looks like you can create this environment for yourself. I want to create it for other people.
Right. No, that's correct. And that's the share. So I would be shocked if we don't have the ability, because you can share conversations, you can share gems, Gemini gems, So I believe you would be able to share, because this in the end now is becoming a conversation in Gemini, and you can share conversations in Gemini. The obviously the website, you can share the website that what got created, because what she did is after she created the website, she basically put share, and then she went in and clicked on the share on the as if she was coming in from the outside to look at the knowledge website.
So there was a share link on each of these things. You can share the whole platform, but what you're really doing there is giving them the ability to see answers and interact on the left side. And I don't want to do that. I want to create a learning environment where where it's already canned and it's flexible and they can move around, but they can't alter it.
Right. So guess what? I think here there's a gentleman, I forget his name right now, but he sends me emails almost daily, who that's what he does. He has a education business, And so his thing is creating um, uh, can leveraging the technologies to create canned solutions. So you can go and buy his courses if you would. And so that might be something to look at. But otherwise, it looks like this is almost an interesting research topic of what options are out there for having canned learning environments or canned learning
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It is just something I could research further.
Yeah.
I find that AI sometimes knows what AI is doing, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, but it's interesting because a lot of times when it's not, it's the things that you hope it will.
Yeah, and 2 months from now it'll be there. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
And
have
and that's a little bit of a problem because you can go and say, wow, this is exactly what I wanted. It's great. And then 2 months from now, it's obsolete because
it
they've come
changes.
out with
Yeah,
new capabilities and new directions.
I have a conversation every Monday with ChatGPT, and it summarizes all the things that have happened in the week
Mhm.
that could relate to rotary wash.
Yeah.
But I find that it's always steering me into multiple platforms. It's saying, well, you could use ChatGPT to do this, and you could use Gemini to do this, and Perplexity to do this, and Cloud to do that. And no, I don't want to do that. I want to have one integrated system that I can improve,
Yeah.
not be constantly flipping around.
There are third-party tools out there now that
Mhm.
they will hook to all those different foundation platforms
Yeah,
and then consolidate the answer to you. I personally find it's very interesting. I take the interesting discussions. I take my prompt that I use with ChatGPT and I copy it into Claude.
yeah,
Fascinating to me because I've got the memory turned on both, and they both keep track of my memory. I don't know how, but I get the impression that Claude is spying on my conversations with ChatGPT because a lot of times it comes up and says, "Oh, I know you're interested in this and this and this," and I said, "Well, wait a minute, I haven't discussed that with you yet." And it's
yes.
but it's uh, very interesting to see almost the different personalities of chatting with Claude versus chatting with ChatGPT versus chatting with Gemini.
So I've been thinking about I don't use Claude. I've been thinking about moving
Oh,
some of my work from ChatGPT to Claude based on the reviews that say it's a little more human, it's a little more this. People are upset about the military stuff. Have you compared the two
yeah,
and
yeah.
found one
I
better?
I generally was always saying, okay, if I want to do a deep research and I want to target it, I found Gemini. I thought Gemini did the best on the deep research aspect and being able to give me quotes and citations and all those kinds of things. But I found here up until recently that just brainstorming about stuff, chatting about stuff. I liked ChatGPT because it really said, "Yeah, you remember, 6 months ago you were talking about this and this ties in perfectly with what you were discussing back then, and it hooks it together." And I really I love at the end of a response from ChatGPT, it says, "By the way, I can also do this for you, and I can do that for you. You want
Yes.
me to do that?" And I find they're very, very appropriate. The suggestions that it
Yeah.
makes really tie into what I'm interested in. But
I've found that too. But how about Claude? Have you
yes,
done the
that's the
same?
thing. About a couple of weeks ago, I said, okay, let me copy this thing into Claude. There's this thing I was discussing, and I went and tried it in Claude. And I'll tell you what, I was blown away. What I
Mm.
was studying at that point was one on the one hand was education related things. On the other hand was the history of Rotary and membership, Rotary membership, and impact in Rotary. Why are we not getting the impact that we seek? What's the cause? Where did it come from? How did we get into this situation that we're in? And I found Claude, it just blew me away. It really, um, the way it expressed the answers, the way it tied different stuff together, I really found amazing. So I would heartily recommend that you try that. Maybe make if you've got ChatGPT Mondays, make Claude Tuesdays or something, and just see because it's sometimes just getting that different perspective. It's like I say, it's like talking to a different personality. Stella, I noticed you nodding. Do you have experience in looking at the different platforms like that?
Yeah, yeah. What I would say is that ChatGPT is innovating all the moment,
Yeah.
and that's a good thing. I've been seeing it absolutely the difference between the beginning and seeing it now,
Mhm.
precisely for what you said, because there's many platforms already competing, which one is going to be offering best service. And the one that Judge Hughes is using is amazing. It's like, oh my God, it's like to have a conversation one-on-one, and it's been having great results. What I've been experiencing in what he's doing is being like amazed,
Yeah.
that amazed me like, oh, wow, where are we going? But very personal.
Mhm.
And I like it that at the same time. But
Mhm.
GPT being innovating all the time in the time, and I've been liking it very
Yeah.
much.
And the thing that gets me is that you don't see it because they don't always tell you about the things the innovations
No.
that they brought out.
Hmm.
Just
Hmm.
yesterday, I was looking at a YouTube where somebody was showing the video and the image editing capabilities right now of
That.
ChatGPT. And as much as I like Nano Banana and Nano Banana 2 is like, oh wow.
And
Uh,
it's wonderful that you're saying that, because me coming from the music industry and being seeing the editing of music videos, imagine
yeah, yeah, yeah,
using is being like, wow, and,
yeah.
and it's amaze you. There's also someone in the chat, Paul, that is also saying maybe he has information as well. Like there's plenty of platforms already
Mhm, mhm,
offering services, and yes, there's many differences that you can really use it. It depends the industry, the sector,
mhm.
your purposes,
And I did a chat because I've been focusing pretty much on the Google offering, the Gemini offering with regards to education, the with the education tools that are coming out, and I just went and asked ChatGPT to tell me about all the offerings that it's doing, all the work in the different directions that it's doing. And it's amazing here. They have so many parallels to the things that we're seeing in Gemini, but they don't they don't broadcast them. It's hard to know and be aware of them. So that's something. Ashok, you had your hand up a minute ago. Welcome, though,
Well,
by the way.
yeah, thank you. What a wonderful group. I think I'm growing exponentially as a human learner and at the same time integrating even faster the digital twin concepts. So I just maybe will contribute by two things. My digital twin is almost a year old, and I birthed it after my wife turned 60. The name is Ashok AI, and I haven't put it into a public domain, but I ran it through my generative AI group at Mayo, and they asked me to embargo it until January of 2026 with a Bitcoin of 2.1, 0.21. And I don't know what all that means, but the the curiosity I had is March 5th, the digital twin gave me a laws of 10 intelligences that it will put as properties for my function. And as a integrated human agent serving people and the planet, I'm really curious. It also projected out what the next 500 years of human digital transformation is going to look like, all the way to interstellar uh, colonization and space economy. And so I have all these aha moments with all of you, but I'm even blown away by how do I maintain integrity, coherence, professional etiquette, and then a public face to my hybrid self going forward.
Mm.
And so I ask that question humbly and openly and harmoniously with the idea that it's no longer cognition that's the limiting factor. It's how do we coherently integrate the best of evolving technologies with ethics and responsible human behavior.
Mm. That's basically here what we want to talk about, because it's very interesting when we get into my colleagues in the Rotary Fellowship, Artificial Intelligence Fellowship, talk a lot about ethics. And it's very interesting here. The ethics are talking about misinformation and abuse of the tools, but also talking about what about the responsibility? Does a business have a responsibility to its employees? Or are the employees only there to serve the purpose of the business? And when we get into business, it's very interesting because the question is, a business justifies its existence because it's providing somebody a service. If it's not providing a service, nobody will want it. So, in your field, let's say, you come up with a medical prosthesis there, and, you want to make it available to people who need it. So you go out and you say, okay, I've got to build this device or attachment or whatever. But if I make it too expensive, then most of the people who could benefit from it won't be able to afford it. So I got to find a way. How can I produce this to the absolute lowest costs? And to do that, what I've got to do is I've got to replace the human workers with automation that can enable me to offer it to a much lower price to a much larger audience. Now, that's one perspective. If your goal is to serve people with this aid that could help them. On the other hand, that we've got people that are looking to say, how do I make money out of this? And so I look and I say, if there's too many on the market, the price is going to be too low, and I'm not going to make much of a profit. So my goal is to limit the availability of whatever that is, so that I can maximize the price. And this becomes a very challenging discussion on its own right. When we think of the farmers in France who poured their milk on the streets and things because they say, there's too much milk out here because you're letting milk be imported, and therefore we can't make enough money to make it worth our while to produce the milk. And we see that governments pay farmers not to grow food. We see that there are uh, businesses, if you would, or groups that will gather up food and destroy it to reduce the amount of food that's available on the market so that they can maintain a certain price level. and Estelle and I were talking about this earlier, the shift that for thousands and thousands of years, the whole world economy is based on scarcity. The value of things is based on them being scarce. And we are moving towards a world of potential abundance where everything is just there. But that means the value of those things goes down, what you're willing to pay for. If food is available on every street corner, I don't have to spend a lot of money to get the food. In an economic value, it's gone down, but on a survival value, to me, the food doesn't go down. I still need that food.
Now it's going to
And
start another processing into the economies as well. Then all social economies, all the sustainable economies will be implanted.
right.
How exactly, instead to be studying in theory and being seeing it that it's going to happen in the future,
Mhm.
all this beneficial disruption is going finally to have the
Well,
result that we're looking in the
we
we, in the
yes,
we.
we can see that path. We can see a path to this shared abundance in the world, but there's also paths of people who have based their whole empires on scarcity, who may not be willing to give that up, to give up that value that they have because of scarcity, to be willing to share everything with everybody. They're basically reducing their sense of privilege, if you would. And that's maybe the ethical question, but that's not the question that ethicists are talking about. Maybe that's what we need to be talking about is how do we move to an era of sharing, of really true sharing, because the world is not dependent on human labor, or will not shortly be dependent on human labor, and what that
Right.
means. And what does that mean for Rotary? Imagine this
Yeah.
here. What does it mean for Rotary if a significant percentage of Rotary members no longer have businesses, no longer have incomes?
So, Bill, this is great that it's also being recorded. So, can I just take about 3 minutes to philosophize and offer a 3 by 5 by 2 matrix?
Mhm. Yes.
So the three or the 5 economies that right now are simultaneously being disrupted and reintegrated are the caring economy for human health and human-centered designers, the digital economy for all the architects and IT and knowledge cyber platforms, the space economy with private sector as well as government, NASA, and others, both for defense and for intelligence. The digital economy, so caring economy, digital economy, space economy, quantum economy, with people looking at energetics, physics, quantum technologies, and quantum solutions. And then this overlap, this one that I think we still have to name and monetize. But those 5 areas, carrying, digital, quantum, space, and whatever this other gap is, we're going to have to define. Then, as I've talked with the economists, they, like you said, the value proposition is: are we trying to work together and understand how to adapt to a threat or a situation in front of us so we can learn and serve and emerge wisdom? Or are we doing it to control, evoke fear, create disruptions and innovate in an unhealthy way, but that's all possible. And then you said from the financial side, the conversations that are coming up with blockchain and others are related to, do we want to, how much do we monetize our services, tokenize our services, or weaponize our intelligences? So I would propose there's not going to be a one um, size fits all, but we have to address all of these aspects. And with the help of AI and your visual software, whatever the tool is, whether it's Claude or Grok or Gemini or ChatGPT, we need to kind of uh, um, build some consensus. I think this group, has that capability and has the connectedness to be able to put this 3 by 5 by 2 matrix in really smooth motion. And you've been such a good mentor and moderator. I would choose you to be the assistant to the
Challenger.
secretary to the assistant to the secretary general of the electronic UN, which would be Kat Haber.
It's awesome.
Yeah. You said something here I thought was really interesting and tying together this aspect of scarcity versus abundance. And that was referring to the caring economy. And here's the thing, the forecasts are that by 2029, we will achieve what they call, what is it? Longevity escape velocity, I think is the term they use. What that means is that with each year, expected human longevity will extend by more than a year. So basically, if you don't get into an accident or whatnot, you will live forever. We will have achieved immortality. And a lot of that is dependent, at least what I've been following, on things like genetic engineering, with the CRISPR-9 gene editing capabilities there to be able to eliminate diseases, to be able to even restore broken bones and things like this, or be able to reverse aging. Everybody's going to be able to live forever at age 30, the equivalent of biological age 30. Because of the fact that the cells reproduce 7 times in your lifetime, and aging is just a defective a certain percentage of cells reproduced effectively each cycle. So if that can be reversed with stem cells and this editing and so forth. But here's the issue. If we reach literally the point that everybody can live for everyone, or forever, uh, what does that mean for childbearing? Are we going to allow people to continue to have children if nobody's dying on the other end? Or what does that mean? Uh, will certain classes say, you know what, we got to keep the price of being able to be immortal so high, so that the masses will not be able to have that kind of health care, because we need them to die. So it will reserve immortality only for us and our children. That's not hard to imagine, that it comes up and says, yeah, immortality, it costs $1 billion. And for $1 billion, you can be immortal. So when we look at the challenges, Mo Gaudet, the former head of Google X, he's very concerned about a lot of these developments, and he points out continually that along with people like Yuval Harari and others, that it's not the technology that's the real danger. It's us humans that are the danger, and technology is enabling us humans to do much worse things than we've ever been able to do in the past. But also to be able to do great things, positive things we've never been able to do in the past. And the battle is going to be between the people who want to do the good things and the people who don't want to do the good things or want to block the good things. And so I think it's really important to discuss those aspects. I have another video from that the person we just heard from in the last video that I'd like to be able to show. Yes, Ashok, you want to say something further?
Yeah. 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 Just before you show the video, I put two books in the chat that seem to be timely. One was by Thomas Sowell, Sowell, Conflict of Visions. And that book nicely depicts the two paradigms that you were talking about. One, which is a constrained view with a zero-sum game, and the other one, which is biased, I think, by teachers that see the potential in everyone. And that is this worldview of abundance, that if we organize and share things, we'll never get tired of each other. There'll always be things to talk about and grow and learn and evolve. And then the other one was Let Your Life Speak by Parker Palmer, who also wrote Courage to Teach, the inner journey of a teacher. And two things he emphasizes. One is moving from the paradigm of a mentor or guide in the middle, in the center, to a guide from the side, and celebrating the capacity for us to build communities of truth where the center is open to whatever the value, meme, or cultural priority we have. It's not, it's a subject. It's not an object to be codified and deployed. It's to be something to be synthesized and co-created, and it's done within the context of a community of truth, whatever that. It doesn't have to be a professional society, but I really like that idea of um, understanding why we exist and why we're at the table. And the let your life speak part is he went through a lot of depression as an academic, and he came out with 4 seasons. And he says all the seasons, Minnesotans like this because there's 4 seasons, but they're all 4 seasons matter. And we have to go through winter and fall, not for depression and isolation, but knowing that it's a season for change, for reflection, for growing our inner compass and grounding ourselves in, the celebration of family and community. And I
Regenerate.
and I think this idea of listening to the vocation, the inner voice, the vocare, in order to really be clear, about your purpose and the meaning of your own life. So let your life speak, and each of you let each other. You let me speak this stuff, and I don't know where it comes from, but it's super cool that we can share in authentic ways, and we have a psychologically safe space where we can, imagine the best and the worst.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that's so important as with regards to AI, and we started off up until 2000, our club was very heavily focused on education. I was still the vice chair of the NGO Committee for Education, Learning, and Literacy at the UN, and I had been looking into education for probably 30 years by that time, and looking to see how can we close the education gaps everywhere. And then COVID came along. We were uh, ready to kick off together with the UN a an initiative that had the potential to be the biggest single organized human endeavor in the history of mankind against illiteracy on a global scale. But it was dependent, obviously, on working with the schools. And COVID came along, and the schools were the students weren't there anymore in so many places around the world. So that we had to put that on the back burner. And then 2022, we were just starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel and saying we can get back to the our education goals there. And along came ChatGPT. And all of a sudden, we're looking here and seeing, okay, this is something that is likely to have a very major impact on society. And that was my second focus in the prior almost 50 years of my life in IT, and especially working in advanced technologies such as self-developing software, which was sort of a little bit of a precursor onto the AI scene. And we started looking and saying, "Whoops, this is almost more critical than education and climate change." Because when we look at climate change, we say, okay, we got maybe a 20, 30 or more year horizon. And we look at AI, and if somebody comes along and we have the self-improving AI, literally the world could change in a matter of days, literally. And our societal norms and standards are not set up to deal with the kind of change that we might see AI bringing about. And so many of the things that we look at on a day-to-day problem basis uh, will potentially change radically. So, at any rate, I was just looking here, Paul. Um, Stella, you mentioned here we should hear from Paul, but it looks like he had to leave us. We have several new people I'm seeing here. Teresa, this is your first time joining us. Is that correct?
Not really.
Oh,
I was here last year, though I got a bit, yeah, engaged. So I'm now back. Like,
uh-huh.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Well, if you were last with us last year, you'll see a lot of stuff has changed significantly since that time. One of the
yes.
things I see Kat just left us. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Stella, you might know. Is that the woman that Kurt was referring to from the LA School District? Kat
I
Haber?
no, I can
Okay,
recall.
okay. Hopefully, maybe she'll come back.
Yes.
Okay, but at any rate, uh, so because we were talking about this need to figure out how we're going to share in an economy if the economy is no longer based on human labor. But the issue is, there's a lot of people out there that says, "What do you mean? Human labor is always going to have value, and machines can't do what humans can do." We hear that a lot. We hear a lot of people saying that um, the technology has always brought about more new jobs than it's displaced. The question is, though, is the AI going to do the new jobs better than humans? And is it going to do it before humans have time to learn the new jobs? The AI will already be doing them, or the robots. And one of the issues are, and I didn't pick any particular videos, um, the advances in robots, especially humanoid robots, in many ways is more surprising than what's been happening with regards to AI in general. If you looked at the China Spring Festival Gala of humanoid robots, uh, their dexterity, flexibility, balance, you name it, doing sword fighting, doing gymnastics, doing all kinds of things. And then they compared that to the same event that took place a year earlier, and it's just mind-boggling. Then this past week, I saw that Figure released a new video showing one of its humanoid robots cleaning up a living room. And in the past, a lot of times, whenever you saw humanoid robots doing something, there was a human in the background telling it what to do. But in this particular case, they say, of course, we have to take their word for it because we weren't there. But it said, okay, the only instructions that this was given was that, hey, go on out there and clean up the living room. And so it had to decide, well, what does that mean? What needs to be cleaned up? So you see it moving stuff around, centering things on a table and dusting the corners and cleaning the corners and fluffing the pillows and doing all these things. And supposedly it's doing it at its own initiative. It went and figured out what needs to be done, and then it started doing that. So we have to now imagine with those factors, and um, um, Elon Musk Oculus introduced and showed a new hand capability that uh, is just got incredible dexterity and functioning and so forth, the human hands. And we're seeing they're moving away from using metal and using types of elastics and things to make it more similar to the way human muscles work. So there's so much here. So we have to project now a year into the future. The estimates are that we will have over 100,000 humanoid robots produced this year. But we will be getting into the millions in a very short time. Take that together with where we are with self-driving cars. I saw something here. There's so many numbers going through my head that I have difficulty remembering. Self-driving cars are expanding into more and more cities. But I understand Waymo is now already at the point where there's 1 million trips, self-driving car trips per week. Means 1 million people got into a self-driving car in a week. Now, I don't know, was that this week? Was that 2025 during sometime at the end of 2025? Or is that what's projected for this year? I can't remember. Too many numbers out there. But the forecast is by 2027, that is going to be the norm here in a lot of cities. They're expecting to expand to 20 cities in the United States, but Waymo is now spreading around the world. And I think China is even much further along than the United States is with regards to self-driving cars. Um, but the self-driving cars is nothing more than a robot on wheels, at least my interpretation. And it's just taking all these inputs that it's getting from sensors of what's going on around it, and it's reacting to those sensors. And so many of the other things that we're seeing and talking about when you're interacting with avatars or you're interacting here uh, with uh, uh, with AI in general, more and more it's not dependent on capturing historical human data. It's able to go and it's creating its own data on an ongoing basis. And it's basically observing. So it's able to go just like that self-driving car. The way they developed those initially is they captured all the information coming in from cameras and that both cameras inside the car watching the driver, the human driver, and cameras and LiDAR and everything outside capturing all the information going on there. And they were able to watch and see what did the human do? Oh, here's a situation that arises. What did the human do? Oh, was the result good or was the result bad? And that's how they were able to develop the self-driving car to say what actions should be taken in a given set of situations. They say, okay, we're going to take the one that has the best outcomes, that had the majority of best outcomes. And that's what AI is all about. AI is about capturing information about situations and being able to go and look at all the different ideas and actions related to that situation and being able to see which ones led to the best outcomes, to the best results. And over time, uh, get to where it has influence in those outcomes to influence the outcomes towards the best results. I think that should, well, I'm glad it's being recorded. I need to capture that because I think that really says in a nutshell what this whole AI stuff is about. It's about capturing situations and actions and being able to identify the good actions versus the lesser good actions, and move us all towards more of the better actions. Anyway, I said I'd show another video, and before I put you all to sleep, let me let me do that. I think, yeah, okay. So this is similar to the one I showed before, slightly different. Whoop.
Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to show
Okay, so again, I apologize for a little bit because it's an overlap because in the previous video we saw about being able to create a website, but this is a little bit different. So this is why I thought you'd find this interesting.
you how to take a simple research notebook in Notebook LM and turn it into a stunning interactive website in just a few minutes. Most people use Notebook LM to organize sources or generate summaries or even to create videos and visuals, but what many people don't realize is that there is so much more you can do with the research you collect. So in this video, we're going to turn that research into a clean, structured website that captures our insights in a much more visual and engaging way. So let's get started. So let's head over to Notebook LM and create a new notebook. For the topic, I'm going to enter the research AI trends and tools in 2026, technologies, use cases, and business impact. Make sure you select deep research. This mode gathers more detailed sources such as reports, industry analysis, and longer studies, so the information you work with later is much stronger. So I'm going to enter that and click Start. Now you'll see that Notebook LM begins collecting sources. The next thing we'll do is open the Sources tab and quickly review them. We'll make sure that we remove anything that looks outdated or not directly related to our topic. A smaller number of strong sources is much better than a long list of weak ones. Once that's done, our notebook becomes a structured research base that we can use in the next step. So now that the research is ready, we'll move to Gemini, and the first thing we'll do is go to Add Files and select our notebook. And so here, I'll choose the notebook I just created in Notebook LM. Once it loads, we'll go to the model settings and select the Pro model. This model is helpful here because it can think through the structure of the site more carefully and produce more detailed results. Now we're going to enter a prompt that asks Gemini to turn the research into a clear website plan. Here's the prompt. Review the attached notebook and use the research to design the structure of a modern single-page website. Outline the main sections the page should contain and explain the role of each section. For every section, include suggested headings, key information that should appear there, and ideas for visuals or layout elements. Also suggest a color scheme that would suit a technology-focused site. So I'll enter that. And now Gemini goes through the research in the notebook and begins organizing the information. You can see that it starts building a clear outline for the website. For example, it opens with a hero section that introduces the idea of the shift toward agent-driven AI in 2026. Then it moves into a section explaining the transition from AI co-pilots to autonomous agents. After that, there's a section on the impact on organizations and the workforce, including roles like the Chief AI Officer. It also includes a section on new AI infrastructure, such as small language models and edge AI. What I like here is that the structure is coming directly from the research in the notebook. So the sections, the ideas, and the flow of the page are all grounded in the material we collected earlier. So once we've reviewed the output and the structure looks good, we can move to the next step. Now we're going to generate the actual website. So here we'll come to Tools and select Canvas. Now I'm going to enter this prompt using the structure we just created, generate the full website, write the entire page as a single HTML file using Tailwind CSS. Follow the sections we outlined and include smooth scrolling navigation between sections. Design the layout to look like a modern professional style website with clean typography, card layouts, and subtle hover effects. Then I'll enter that. Once it finishes, you can click preview and now the website appears. Right away you can see a large hero section with bold typography and a call to action button that invites users to explore the report. Across the top, there's a navigation bar linking to the different sections of the page, so users can quickly jump between topics like the shift in AI, workforce changes, infrastructure, sustainability, and industries. As you scroll down, you'll start to see the layout we planned.
Keep in mind here again, we've got our split screen. The left-hand side of the screen, you can talk to Gemini about changes you want to what's on the right-hand side of the screen, or yeah, whatever you improvements you'd like to see.
Earlier come to life. For example, the section explaining the move toward agentic AI is presented as a side-by-side comparison layout showing assistive co-pilots on one side and autonomous agents on the other. Further down, the workforce section uses feature cards and icon blocks to highlight key ideas, along with large visual metrics that stand out on the page. Then the infrastructure section introduces stack-style cards with icons representing different parts of the AI technology stack, which helps break the information into clear visual components. In the sustainability section, you can see data visualizations and charts that illustrate things like projected data center capacity, giving the page a more analytical feel. And at the bottom, there's a call to action area with an email input and button so visitors can download the full report or subscribe for updates. It uses navigation menus, cards, icons, charts, large headings, and call to action sections to organize the information in a way that feels much more like a modern product landing page. And that's really the key idea here. Instead of asking AI to produce a random website, we first use the research to define the structure and then use that structure to generate the layout. So the final result feels much more organized and intentional. And what we can do here is click on share. This will generate a link so that we can open it as an HTML page in our browser. So let's open the link so we can see our website full screen. So look at this, a full website with all our features and insights that we specified, with a clear layout and a very professional look and feel. We can also extend the website by adding new elements. So we'll go back into Gemini Canvas and ask it to expand the page with an additional feature. Instead of redesigning the existing sections, we'll add something new that makes the site more interactive. Here's the prompt we'll enter. Add an additional section to this website that highlights recommended AI tools for 2026. Display them as a grid of cards with icons, short descriptions, and links. Make the cards interactive with hover effects so users can explore the tools easily. So I'll enter that. And now Gemini.
When you think about that, that's just a simple English description of what they want. If you were trying to go and code that yourself to make that website do that, you would spend a significant amount of time getting the hover effects, getting the layout the way you want, and so forth. This is amazingly powerful.
Updates the page by adding a new section, and when we preview the site again, you'll see an additional area appear on the page with a grid layout of cards. Each card includes an icon, a short description, and a clean visual layout so the tools are easy to browse. And this is a really useful trick as you're not limited to the original structure. You can keep expanding the website by adding new sections, feature blocks, dashboards, or tool directories depending on what you want the site to include. So the website becomes something you can keep developing rather than just a single generated page. So in this video, we saw how we can generate a full interactive website built directly from the research in Notebook LM. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe for more.
Okay, so okay, so this is an example here that I think, Stuart, I can see here, like for stuff for Rotary, to be able to go and very quickly be able to go and say, do the research for new officers coming into a club for their training and so forth. To be able to put something out there and then start tweaking it and expanding it and deepening it. Stella, the website here for your upcoming event, to be able to expand that and maybe have multiple landing pages for different audiences, because it's easy to do. Joan, just imagine this with your victory gardens and education and so forth. Again, this ability to go in, generate a website, but not only did you generate the website, you controlled the base of knowledge that that website is all about. And you can include in the instructions to the website, one of the things she did, what's your purpose of the website? What do you want the website to accomplish? And so it will do the design based around what you're trying to accomplish with the website. So normally here, if you're like a systems analyst or whatnot, and you're trying to give a programmer instructions on what to do, you've got to be so exacting to make it do this there. You can't just tell them, here, make me a website that's going to accomplish this, right? So this is extremely powerful to be able to do that and then be able to go in there and tweak it and say, well, that's not getting across. Or you can even go in and ask it later on and say, this menu item's here. Do you think AI, do you think it's accomplishing that goal that I'd like it to accomplish there? Do you think it's going to provide the takeaway message that I want people to take away there? So that's, I think, the new way of thinking for where there's going to be job opportunities. The people who can best understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish and be able to go in and not necessarily say, I know that's not accomplishing what I want the best, but be able to go in there and say, how do I get expert opinions on whether or not that is accomplishing what I'm trying to accomplish? So that I think is a strong thing. Jerica, we haven't heard from you yet today.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
This is one of the meetings that, I mentioned, previously. It's really important that we're all here and all paying attention because as we have these learning meetings, these educational meetings on the tools, it's really important that we take that information and engage with one another. I think that we've been getting a little fire under our feet on the Telegram. I'd like to see more participation and activity and having everybody give these tools a go within the framework of what we're doing here and wanting to accomplish within the next year. So I'm really, really pleased. This was a great, great meeting so far, Bill. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm going to show you, I want to show you something else because, the key thing here is for us to grasp how powerful some of this stuff is becoming. It's being aware of what you can accomplish with some of these things. So I want to show you something with Claude that, again, I only found out, well, it may have been there the whole time, but I never tried it and I didn't understand. So I'm going to share my screen with Claude. Okay. So can all of you see it says Happy Saturday, Bill?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to ask it something. Okay. Show me how
Oh, I took it already.
interest
Oh,
works.
that's your vitamin D. Oh, I didn't.
Oh, come on.
Not very smart, is it?
Okay. I didn't wait for it to
I'm not
stay.
quite sure what you mean by power books, Bill. Is that a word you're working with?
Or did something get garbled in the transcription? Happy to help if you can give me a bit more context.
Okay, I asked you to show me how compound interest works.
Right. Are you letting me know you're talking to someone? Or did you mean to ask me something? I'm here if you need me.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna stop. I don't know here if it's because of the Zoom or whatnot, and let me just ask it. Okay. Okay, so I had not switched it over. Uh, whoa. Um, by the way, do you see this Notebook LM thing up here? That's something available in Claude that you can take your entire conversation threads and you can literally just promote them over into a new Notebook LM or into an existing Notebook LM. So
You can't take Notebook LM and bring it into the conversation.
haven't tried that. Hold on a minute. Let me get this out of the way and see. Um, Probably with this connector thing. You can plug into apps, various apps here. Um, so here I can plug in from a Google Drive, um, create the project screenshots, and I don't know what I can do here on. No, that's just taking files from where I'm at. Anyway, let me give this another try to see if I can now get this to. Oh, okay, here we go. So, so I just said, show me how compound interest works. So it says, I'm going to build you an interactive tool so you can see it in action. And you can see it going through all its thinking as it's doing this chain of reasoning. Okay.
We use the word thinking loosely.
Yeah. Okay, so here I've got this thing here. It
Little
built this
website.
it built this thing here showing me how compound interest, and it made these things here where I can change. Let me get this so I can see. So if I change the interest rate, see what it's doing here on the bottom? It's changing the graph. So it's created
Yeah.
this thing here. But the important thing is not that, oh, there's a tool there that you can do this stuff with. What's interesting about it is that it created an app. It created an app here from what, 6 words that I put in, something like that. Uh,
Yeah.
and to be able to show how something works. Now, maybe I put in something that explains some physics theory or some chemical uh, reaction type of a thing. And where I might be able to say the reaction to some chemical combination, how is it affected by heat? How is it affected by air pressure? Who knows? I don't know what. But the bottom line is learning something that it can create on the fly. These kinds of show me devices, show me apps. I find that just amazing. Your thoughts on that, guys?
I think that that's really good because as we are addressing global root causes of these greater problems and existential threats, I think it's a really good thing to do, even if you want to give yourself a mini simulation of something before you maybe put a PowerPoint or something together based on information.
Yeah, for example, Joan is interested in gardens. So potentially to be able to say where you can pick the kind of a plant and you can say what's the impact of drought or what kind of what is the impact of different kinds of pests, insect pests that might be attacking a particular plant and be able to see what the plant look. It might be able to change what the plant looks like between the healthy plant and the less healthy plant, depending on the amount of water, the amount of nutrients, and so forth, or the impact of weeds on that. I'm just
No, and I've done actually not in Claude, but in Gemini, I've done exactly what you just said.
uh-huh.
Because what happens is what I learned when we had the demonstration garden was that people actually didn't know what the plants look like. They knew what the fruit or like the produce looked like because from the grocery stores, but a lot of times they didn't know what the actual plants look like, and also like how to take care of each plant. So they would plant things in their garden, things that needed lots of water and things that didn't need a lot of water, and wonder why the garden wasn't successful. So, we had to, we had to teach them, plant these sort of products together, vegetables together, these ones like more shade. So I think that this would help tremendously because it's visual. It can be visual, and that's what people are looking for. There's a lot more visual learners out there than we think.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, and so I think, but this, like I say, this shows here how important it is to try to keep up with the new features that these tools are bringing out on a continual basis. And the thing that we're getting very close to is with the whole agentic technology. Um, I saw if you're trying to create a gem, for example, in Gemini, that there's this tool called Opal that allows you to just connect different steps of a process. And define different steps of a process that you can embed that into gems. Then you can turn around and attach gems to a notebook LM, and it will validate your sources, or it will go and sync them to keep them up to date. And so there's just so many things that are coming of this. And
I
yeah.
saw a BBC interview with the CEO of Google uh, about a month ago. He was in the UK, and he was asked about AI. Of course, everybody asks about AI and jobs mostly, and but one of the things he says about the technology was that, and this is his words. I'm not going to quote him. I'm not quoting him directly, but essentially what he said was, AI is so powerful that if you took every single woman, man, woman, and every single child in the world working for 1 hour on advancing the technology, they would be slower than the technology they're using right now.
Yeah, that's the whole point. And one thing we have to remember, like we talked about earlier, when we get into the ethical questions of, especially of job displacement, is it possible to stop it, and is it
Yep.
good to stop it? Do we want to stop it? Um, these are things that we're getting into that we've got to answer. I'm just trying to go and add. I want to add the links to. Okay. I'm just trying to add the links to the videos that I showed. Stuart asked for them, and so there's one. Yes, Teresa.
I've heard about that, what you've said about the replacement of jobs. And to me, I think some of us are just threatened, but AI, as a person who did computer science, what I've noticed is that AI is a tool that if you integrate with it in your daily life, in the things you're doing, you can actually be greater. That's what I've already noticed. Though some people feel like it's a threat because now, like for developers, like if you're a developer and you used to develop apps, and now AI can easily develop those same apps. But how good could you use that AI to be a greater person? I think that's the question we are all within us. Like, how can I use these tools to be a greater person
Yeah.
than us being threatened about losing our jobs?
Well, I think
Yeah, something that
yeah, be careful here. You said something extremely interesting because you said, let's not just worry about our jobs. How do we use it to become a better person? Now, for a lot of people, they're looking to say, how do I use AI to become a better person at my job? Whereas if you just say to be a better person, absolutely here, this is what we hope. What we hope is that people will use AI to be better people, to think about, hey, what can I do that will be beneficial to humanity, to mankind? What can I do that's going to be to help my sick friend? What can I do to alleviate some pressure point in my community? To do things like that, that would be really great for AI. But that's different than going and saying, "Hey, you know what? I'm an architect, and I don't need all these draftsmen, these graphic artists that I've got working for me. I can replace them because I'll just tell AI what to do, and it will do it for me. And so I can be more competitive. I can either make more money because I don't have to pay these workers to work for me anymore, or I can do 10 times as many projects because I can do them each in 1/10 of the amount of time. So that this is the crucial part. But we have to be really aware that yes, the odds are AI is going to take your job. And the reason for that is that if I ask AI to find out for me what's the best decision on some decision I'm trying to make. And then I'll make the decision, and then I ask AI, okay, can you go and do this part of it? Please notify, send out emails to these people and let them know what the decision's going to be, or let them know we're going to have a meeting on such and such a date about the decision. That's one possibility. But what we're seeing more and more is that the people developing the agent workflows are saying, AI, go out there and find a property for me, negotiate the price, go buy the property for me, figure out what the best building would be to build on that property, go ahead out there and search and find all the subcontractors that I'm going to need to build that property, go and inspect all their work, and then go and prepare the marketing materials to either sell or to rent out the finished property, and then go and post those all in the media to be able to find the customers for me. In other words, if we go and say, okay, AI, go help me do steps in a process that I do, then that's one thing. But we're seeing more and more, the answer is AI, go do the job and get the result. And if it's doing that, what does it need the human for? It's like if you've got a loan officer in a bank. And so you've got all the worker bees in the bank, and they collect up the loan applications. But the loan applications then get taken to the loan officer. The loan officer looks through those and makes a decision. But we have to keep in mind, how does that loan officer make his decision? That loan officer either was provided training or was provided an SOP that says, if this is the case, you deny it. If this is the case, then it's okay. You can go to the next question, and so forth and so on. So they're following a process that they've got inside their head. And if we can go and define that process, why do I need the human going and doing the loan processing? My father was executive vice president of a bank. And one of the things that really bothered him was he saw that the loan officers who were members of a community, sometimes they said, "Oh, this guy's a good guy. He's my friend. I'm gonna close my eye to this weakness in his loan application. I'll go ahead and approve the loan." So that they were not approving the loan purely on the objective merits of the loan application. They were allowing other factors to come in, and the result was that sometimes those would result in loan defaults. And the main objective of the top executives was, how do we reduce loan defaults? That's the whole purpose of evaluating loan applications. And so this is coming. It's very important that we realize that if we think through and saying, well, I'm going to go back to the 1970s, 1980s in IT in general. And what we did in those early days is a lot of IT was generating reports for the people in the warehouse that were going to order resupply because you shipped out a lot of product of certain products and the supply was getting low. You now have to reorder some of those supplies. But after creating the reports that the people that were doing the purchasing or whatever used, the next step was to automate the resupply orders to get the resupply. And then the next thing was to automate a process of requesting bid proposals from a number of potential suppliers, so that then you put the resupply into the one that's providing the best deal. And that's what's going to be happening with AI. It's going to be the same process that will first automate the simplest steps. But then as we begin to understand what the next higher level up is doing with the inputs that we're providing them, we're going to automate that step. That's what, think of the self-driving car. Self-driving car, we automated the simplest things of maintaining constant distance to the car in front of you, or maintain a certain speed, or brake if this happens. But eventually it gets to the point that we're able to dodge a bicycle coming in from the side, and the number of accidents, the number of exception cases that have been automated are more and more and more. And all of this is exactly the same path that we can expect to see in AI. Does that make sense, guys?
It does. It does. Um, okay, though, for us, like, let me give an example here. Like the point I was trying to bring in, we do have influencers. Of course, they are used for commercials, but I believe time is going to come and they are no longer of use, and it will be generally AI, because I've seen commercials by AI people are making. But then if someone is able to, if you're a content creator and you're able to implement AI to create more, I think you wouldn't be losing your job. That's the point I was trying to bring
No,
on.
you're
Like,
right. For the short term, I agree 100%. But at some
yeah,
point here, maybe some marketing manager says to AI, go out there and find out what we could do to improve our commercials to be able to successfully reach more customers and sell more product. So the AI is going to go out there, is going to look at all the existing commercials, look at all your competitors' commercials, and is going to analyze why you're not getting more sales or what would have to change to get more sales. Then it will go and make the changes to get the sales. And at the end of the day, the marketing manager just has to keep track of, oh, are the sales going up? Are the sales going down? And if they're going down, then I just, hey, AI, why are our sales going down? What do we have to do to improve our sales? And the AI might come back and say, oh, it's because a competitor's product has these features that our product doesn't have. We need to do that. Or it may come back and say, oh, I see the competitor came out with a new commercial and they do a better job of explaining the value of some feature than our commercials do. And then it says we got to improve our commercials, and it just goes ahead and does it. Can you see that happening?
yeah, yes, true.
Yeah. So
And
one of the things we talk about, one of the big dangers that a lot of the people in AI are concerned about is what if we lose control over AI? What if AI goes out there and improves itself so much that you don't even need the CEO? In other words, it just goes out there and says, this is what should be done. And it just goes and does it. That's the thing that people are afraid of. And if the AI reaches the point that it becomes self-improving and it goes out there and it may go and it starts going and improving itself and then saying, oh, we need more sensors, we need more cameras in all these places. And it goes and gets its robot AIs to go out there and put in all those the cameras in those places. And then it says, well, based on the observations of the human behavior or the behavior of the cars, we need these kind of control factors. So it goes out there and does that, and it just keeps self-improving, saying, I need this kind of information, I need that information. This would be a better decision than that, and so if you are asking it to do a simple step and it does the simple step, you can control where things are going by limiting the steps that you ask it to do. But if you've given it a very broad thing, say, there's a famous example out there about paper clips where it said to go and make sure there's enough paper clips or something like that. And the AI went out there and said, my job is to make sure that everybody's got all these paper clips. And if it found somebody that got in the way of providing or being able to make the paper clips available, they declared basically that person to be an enemy and got rid of the person. Um, so the issue is, how broad is the mission? And we hear about these. A friend of mine told me the other day about a case where um, an AI found out that they were planning to shut it down. That this manager was making a decision to shut them down, and the AI went out there and just flooded social media with insulting comments about this manager. Basically, they tried to blackmail the manager to not shut them down. And there's a lot of cases that have been published. Now, just to be sure, almost all of those cases that you hear about of AI uh, doing actions, copying itself to another computer to avoid being shut down or things like that, almost all of these are happening because of tests that the AI companies are doing to ensure that does not happen. They're finding out where are the weaknesses in the system that could allow AI to do things that are not expected or not necessarily desired. And they're doing that so that they can put in measures to block that kind of thing. So we don't need to be afraid or thinking that AI can do those things now. They put extreme pressures, dropped all kinds of hints around that enabled AI to come to these kinds of conclusions. But they could happen. And so this is the biggest risk we have is when they call it recursive self-improvement. If AI gains the ability of recursive self-improvement, um, it may evolve in ways that we've not thought of. And so that is a little bit of a concern there. Okay. Any other thoughts here on this aspect of jobs? Is anybody thinking here, for example, we keep hearing about people saying, don't worry, don't worry. When AI comes, it's going to create new jobs. We don't even know what they are. We can't even imagine what they might be. But there's probably going to be all kinds of new jobs coming out of that.
Bill,
Yeah.
do we actually want this world that we're creating?
Well,
Is it the
okay.
best? Is it the best thing for humanity?
Yes, that is a very good question. It's very heavily debated. The people that are pushing for AI and people that are not necessarily part of the process of developing the AI, but are sort of observers, people like Peter Diamandis of the X Prizes, uh, they have uh, they see AI as being paradise for humans. Well, I'll take that back. They see getting rid of jobs for humans, making eliminating the need for humans to have jobs, and uh, or at least compensated jobs. They see that as the future, the desirable future. And there's a lot of people that are looking and saying, "My God, if the jobs are gone, how do I eat? Right? How do I survive?" And then there's another level of people that say people need work to give them a sense of value. So we're going to find people in depression and so forth because they tend to identify themselves based on the work they do. But the question is, does that mean we should make sure people have to work for the rest of their lives? And also we have to remember work is a something that separates us. People compete for promotions because they feel if I get the promotion, I'm a better person. The more I can move up in these ranks, the more I'm respected, the more people think highly of me. And therefore, I've got to be competing in that rat race, if you would.
The
And
beautiful
maybe,
thing about the new society when we create it because we don't have to do any work is that we create things that we enjoy doing and helping and evolving into.
yes,
Uh, and that has not really been taken into account in so many areas.
yeah. And I
And
Well,
think
that's why we have
I don't think that people pushing AI now have those altruistic ideas in mind. They are just purely doing it for profit.
I think well, this is another big debate factor because you have to remember, even Elon Musk and Sam Altman, why did they create OpenAI? OpenAI was created to be a nonprofit organization to better humanity and make sure all humans benefit from that. That's what it was created for. Is it moving? Is it being morphed into a for-profit here? And are people maybe getting power hungry because of the power they have? With their many billions of dollars or hundreds of billions, or, just imagine here if Elon Musk, they're saying he's probably going to be the world's first trillionaire. That's $1,000 billion. That's $1 million million. Okay, what's the amount of daily interest that somebody accrues from having $1 million? And so uh, how did they relate to normal people in that regard? But this is why I do these sessions for the most part, is it is so important that we start to be thinking about not just AI is evolving the way IT evolved and so forth. It's just not just another development out there. It's not just some new tools. It's something here that is potentially requires a new societal model to replace a model that's tens of thousands of years old. And people are not imagining how big a leap that might be and how difficult it might be for humanity to make that leap to saying, hey, if we're no longer, if your value is no longer based on your labor, then what's your justification for existing? Basically.
Well, in retail, in pharmacy in the UK, the pharmacy owners are training up the junior staff
Mhm.
with the intention of getting the functions done by the pharmacists covered by AI.
Mhm.
So they'll save like 70, 80,000 pounds per year per pharmacy over 12,000 locations.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's already happening.
But we have to think about it here. I don't think you were on the call when we were talking about this earlier. A business, the way back in the beginning, somebody said, people need access to medications. Maybe if I create a pharmacy, I can be the place that they can provide them with their medications. Obviously, but if I'm going to do that and I'm not out working in the fields, I need to have an income so that I can survive. Well, but my business, I created my business with the idea of providing a service. Because if nobody wants what I'm offering, I've got no business. My business will not succeed. So the idea is that pharmacy is sitting there saying, okay, my mission is to be able to provide people access to medications. And if it's expensive, the more expensive it is to provide those medications to people, the fewer people will be able to take advantage of the medications. So my job is to find the way to provide the medications for the lowest possible cost. So
Yeah,
there's we have a major ethical conflict between servicing our customers and servicing our employees, right?
yeah,
So this is a dilemma, if you would, in a way, because if there are people out there that have no access to the medications because they can't afford them, because I've got to pay my workers. If I could eliminate having to pay my workers, I could reduce the medication costs down to where everybody could afford them. Now, we know that corporations are sitting out there, and a lot of them are saying, "Hey, if I can reduce my costs, I'm not going to go and share that with the customers. I'm going to put that in my pocket." Right?
No, not
Unfortunately,
in
yeah,
Canada. I mean, Canada is a little. We have more. Uh, I guess the states I've heard people from the states refer to us as social medicine, which
yeah.
we call it universal coverage, but so everybody's taken care of. Um, but yeah, that was my point. I know in the U.S. that would probably be an issue. I don't think it would be an issue here. But here's the thing. My husband went to pick up his medications. I think it was a year and a half ago, and the human person made a mistake, and had he not read it, he says, "Oh, this is not my medication." So we talk about humans and AI and all this, and people always say, "Oh, the AI will make a mistake," but there's lots of examples of human mistakes as well. But I wanted to say something about going back about how living organisms have existed for thousands of years. There was a company called Monsanto who took thousands of years of the cell of a plant and modified it. So it happened. It is happening in plants, and this is contribute to our health because of all the changes. I think changes, and I mean, to be fair to Monsanto, oh my God, I don't believe I'm saying this, but um, humans have modified living organisms for a long, long time. Animals, plants, whatever, but not on the level at the cell level that Monsanto did it. I mean, it's just pure evil. They made billions of dollars doing it. So the question was, would you buy Monsanto seeds or would you buy heritage seeds? That became the debate in my world anyway. I don't buy Monsanto seeds, and I can't even know. I look at where something is grown, and I know it's a Monsanto seed. But what was attractive was because everything seems to come down to the cost. The cost of heritage seeds compared to other seeds is so cheap. And yes, the heritage seeds have more inclined to have more diseases, but that's part of nature. Like that's one of the things I want to teach people is like people say, how are you successful as a gardener? And I said, well, I plant with nature in mind. Some for the wild animals, some will go to rot, and some we eat, and they're like, oh, because the thing is that we think we have to have production or harvest 100%. It has never happened. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen. So when we look at AI ruling our world, I mean, I think it was Teresa earlier said, we have to learn to live with it. I'm not threatened by it, but I just heard, I took a break before I had to go do something, and on the news it said that Amazon just laid off 16,000 people, but they didn't say Amazon is using AI to do a lot of the work that those people were doing. No, the news media doesn't say that to people. So is it news that they are using AI, or is it fear that people would have that they're being displaced by not saying it, right? It's here. I think Bill, it's nothing like it was in the past where new industry is created. I don't see the new industries. Some people will get jobs, but a lot of people will be displaced. So I keep saying that one of the reasons. Sorry, I have allergies. So I think one of the duties that people who are in the know should be doing is making people aware of what's to come, and so that they have some choices, so it doesn't hit them like a war. Like it's that because people are not used to change. They've built their lives in going to work, and that's their value. When their value is themselves, but they don't see that. Mm-hmm. Like people talk about, I want to be a CEO. I have a workshop that I talk to women, and I say, be the CEO of your life, not the CEO of your job. And they're like, what? And I have my own company. It's called Joan Kerr, CEO. People think it's my job. It's actually my life. And so the job is just a small part of my life. It's not my life.
Yeah. Joan, you probably recall in some of the Commons Cluster meetings that we used to have, woman, I think she's from India, that was pushing for having unpaid work done
the
by
informal
wives
economy
to be valued. And I think there's several aspects of what you're describing. And we see in the United States, in the Rust Belt of the United States, there's a thing called deaths of despair, where a lot of men who worked in manufacturing, who lost their jobs, that were in their late 40s or in their 50s, and were feeling they were not capable of reskilling themselves for a new kind of job, because they grew up in an era where you went to school and you learned your stuff, and then you employed your skill for the rest of your life. And maybe you moved up along the way, but that's the way it went. And this idea that entire swaths of industry could be displaced is a real problem. And this is
Well,
why,
Bill, I live in the Rust Belt
yeah,
currently right now, and what at least the town that I'm from, we produce um, now about 5% of the world's glass, but we were the capital. Toledo was the glass capital of the world at one point in time. And the auto industry lives very strong here. But what we have seen in the last, I'd say, 8 to 10 years is that our town has been bought out by a medical company called ProMedica. So we have seen those particular industrial jobs, such as Jeep, Chrysler, Dodge, General Motors, Powertrain. A lot of those lines where people were able to, work out their 30 years or what have you, they've been laid off due to the introduction of AI into the plants and robotics into the plants. And so, we've kind of seen that extreme economic decline where somebody could very well live a upper middle class life. We are seeing them now kind of delve down into poverty in the latter part of their years, which should have been the best part of their years. They've worked their whole lives, but and it also changes the perspective. Kind of drilling back into what we do as far as influence and people and human beings and what we need to do to influence certain systems and frameworks. Yes, we see the deficit here, but what can we do to look at it in a global perspective and kind of address that root cause there? With the introduction of AI and robotics and industrial industries, what are we kind of looking at to reshape the messaging going forward to the young people that are coming up so that they don't experience this particular deficit?
yeah, and I think here mentioning in the auto industry, there's two aspects. There was two auto plants being built in, I think it's in Georgia. One of them is Hyundai, and I think it's for Hyundai electric vehicles. Supposedly, the it will take only 3 workers per thousand to produce 1,000 cars in a year. And the norm in Michigan, in Ford and General Motors, the American manufacturers, is something like 33 humans per 1,000 vehicles per year. So we're talking about a 90% reduction in the amount of humans needed to build the amount of cars that we've been producing. On top of that is coming, if Elon Musk's projection is correct, that we're gonna have robo taxis everywhere. In other words, people who own a car will have the car take them somewhere, and then they will release that car, and that car will be a self-driving Uber until it's time that the owner says, "Now come pick me up," and it will come pick me up. But that means that right now, we probably have 90% of cars spend most of their time sitting in a parking lot or a garage. That won't be the case anymore, that cars will be working all the time. So potentially we need 90% fewer cars in general. And if we can produce a car with 90% fewer humans, this is going to have a very, very significant impact. And the problem, I see the biggest problem is that as we look at these changes that are taking place, we are struggling to figure out how do we make the current economic system work in this new economic reality that's taking place. In other words, we're looking, how do we protect the jobs? How do we create the new jobs? What do we do to compensate for the people who've lost their jobs? What we're not doing, and this gets back to the change, we struggle with the change that comes to us that we didn't ask for, but we struggle even more to plan the change that has to come out of our own initiative.
And
And
Bill, just to kind of wedge something in here as
yeah,
well, as we observe this, you know, those upper middle class families, a lot of the time, you know, the grandparents, older parents, those are the ones that put forth toward things like university. Perhaps
mhm,
their kids have early marriages and children. They help them with these things, co-signing for loans, you name it. Those kind of things, you know, as an adult, even in my age range at 36, you'd be able to kind of fall back on your parents or your grandparents at times to supplement those things in that particular economic bracket. So when we look at it, um, not exactly for planning for that age group that has already gone through the deficit, how do we plan forward? Um, you know, it with urgency, because there is a age demographic that is also experiencing deficit because their parents and grandparents are. How are we kind of looking at pushing pushing these things forward so that they are prepared to go into other industries, so that younger people are prepared for this going into the future? How do we kind of look at that issue as well?
yeah, I
Oh,
think
can I say something about that?
yes, Joan, please.
Yes.
I find that the narrative should change and the expectations should change. And as everybody probably know, I'm South Asian, and we don't have this. Like when I came to Canada, the Canadians have a me attitude. What if they do work? What's in it for me? How do I? It's about a me. Where I think Asians as a whole has a we attitude. How do we help our parents? How do we help ourselves? And how do we help our kids? So it's a you know more of a us we approach. And you know, I'm not sure every single human being South Asian does it. I'm just saying as a whole, that's what Asians think. And so when I was bringing up my daughter, who was born in Canada, so she's Canadian, I had a dilemma. Do I bring up in sort of the Asian philosophy or the North American philosophy, because she is by birth North American, right? So I thought, well, you know, I brought her up never to expect anything. That if she must be resilient. And I told her if I wasn't in the picture when she was young, like even when she was little, she would say, "Oh, Mom, can you help me?" I said, "I will, but if I wasn't here, what would you do?" And she would figure out a way. And I said to her, "Remember, always in your life, it's great to have support. Do not rely on them. Rely on yourself and include your support. But it's don't let them make you, and don't have expectations that if you're going to have a big house or a big car, why are you having those expectations? You can work up to them. You don't have to have them at a certain age. You don't have to have, you earn them." And I think that a lot of the what I see so many kids, they're struggling like crazy. And this is an actual fact because I talk to these people. They're my age, and I'm in my 60s, and they have these big houses, and just two people are living in them. The kids are struggling. Their own parents are struggling living on their own, and nobody seems to want to cooperate and help each other and live together. Or it's like they cannot come out of the framework of what was
Yeah.
and looking at how they need to solve what is in there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying globally, I'm saying just your own family.
Yeah, Joan, there's two things very interesting, I think, in what you were just saying. One is if we look at the we you're referring to, that Asian we typically is a limited we because it's typically the greater family. And as opposed to saying the we, it's the whole city, right? Or the whole country,
That's right. That's right.
right?
My husband used to make a joke. He's white, and he used to. Well, I took it as a joke. I didn't think he meant it as a joke, but he used to say, "Yeah, in your family, you don't marry you marry the family."
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
his family, it's the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the interesting thing to that, I think, is when I was trying to understand what happened to Rotary between, let's say, the when Rotary started to lose its image and influence. It took place mostly in the 1950s and 1960s, but it actually is the result of the 1940s. It started in North America, and the reason it started is my mother always used to tell me about when she was growing up. It was the big family. The whole family got together at the grandparents' house. She went to high school with something like 13 cousins and siblings. They were all in high school at the same time, and they called them the Pollinger Gang because the family, they were all really recognized family. Those that my mother's generation, that entire generation that all grew up within a couple of blocks of one another in Brooklyn, New York, uh, every single one of them, I don't think there was any two that lived within 300 miles of another as when they were older. And this in World War II, the community was basically destroyed in most of the developed world because of war damage in Europe, but in the United States, it was first the war effort that caused every fifth American to move across a state line. Now, these were Americans who, for generations, had never left their neighborhood or their village. 20% moved across state lines in the 1940s, either to join the war effort or to join in one way or another. And they also went into mass production because that was the challenge of the time. The 1950s brought about the mass transportation systems, the interstate highway systems, because Eisenhower saw that when he was in Europe. And when he became president, he said, hey, we need that here. And that created the mobility possibility, and people started moving everywhere. And then on top of that, then we had TV come in, and the telephone, which until then was not a telephone like we know it today, where you just called somebody, but you had to talk to an operator who would plug a wire into another wire, who would talk to another
To
operator.
watch old movies to see this now.
Yeah. So I mean,
My mom was a switchboard operator
Yeah.
at the bank.
right. So I'm old enough. I lived through that. I lived through the party line where you had to count the number of rings to know if the call was for your house or somebody else.
Yeah, I lived on a farm and we had to do.
Right. So the thing about it is, what these things did was
Yeah.
they destroyed the social cohesion of the neighborhood or the community in the United States, probably in Canada as well. Europe was recovering from all the war damage, so they were a little bit delayed, but they already had that. They had already known what it was like to have all the train and road communication or mobility and so forth. So this radically changed that idea of the we, because you no longer had access to the we of the family in the U.S. So when I was attending Rotary clubs, when I first joined Rotary in the community, I thought it was very interesting that in the club, the people would talk about the local high school. They all went to the local high school. They all knew each other from that local high school, or at least they knew the teachers if they were in different age groups. But when they talked about their kids, they would talk about their kids. This one's 1,000 miles in that direction. This one's 1,000 miles in another direction. Almost none of those members of Rotary's kids lived in the community, their community where they grew up. And we
I was
saw,
trying to make a point about is that, you know, yes, I understand all of this happened. I mean, in our family, we went to different countries, uh, so it's not, you're not even in the same country. And I mean, and I have a huge family from my mother's side, and my father's side was, well, we didn't really interact with them, but the thing is that you have to look at your life and say, okay, what is happening here? Like, I guess what I was trying to get at is people are brought up that they have they go to school, they have a job, and they work for 40 years and all of that. I wasn't brought up like that, but that's what I gather everybody it seems to be. Maybe what needs to happen is that we look at and help have some sort of education program that I was going to say deprogram people because they're like drones. If you just think you're going to go to school, you're not really thinking, and say this is an exciting time to do something. But I think that is so. I mean, people call me Pollyanna all the time, but an idealistic. But the thing is that you have to get a hold of your own life and stop looking at does somebody think you're successful? Do you think you're successful? I mean, what is a big house or a big car or going on 10 vacations a year? What does it matter? Like, are you enjoying yourself? Are you stressed out? Like, we have friends that make a good living and they work like dogs to go on 2 weeks of holidays. Like, yeah, oh my God. I mean, I'm judgmental. I was like, "Oh, you're working 18 hours a day so you can pay for this expensive 2 weeks at a resort."
Joan, when I became an officer of a bank, they had us read a book, The Coming Feudal Era, because the bank was saying in the future we have to stop, we have to worry less about the common people because it's only going to be a small share of the population that are going to have all the money. And so the bank should really, you have to learn to focus your whole thinking on that wealthy clientele. So the biggest challenge we have now, and the biggest danger that I see, is if we do not switch, if we do not make the shift to a we society, it's very, very possible we see AI is promoting the wealth of a handful of people, and it's about to dramatically reduce the wealth of a huge amount of the masses of the people if we continue to try to live the way society is currently structured. If we're based on, okay, everybody's responsible for your own future, and we take away the means for them to have influence of their future, if we take away the means of them to have income, and we don't have a we thinking, we're gonna have a catastrophe.
Well,
We're
what
gonna
if
have
we looked at communities that still have a we mentality, such as lower economic families, those that are in poverty, they are already used to living with less, working like dogs for vacations, this, that, and the other. They're already used to that. You find even right now, you'll have to go to a neighbor's house even to maybe use a cell phone, or maybe your lights are off. So you have to get to know your community. And I do believe that those communities, especially cultured communities, are extremely strong with that we mentality. So are we also able to kind of observe that as well? Not just the feeling, but actually the activities within the communities, how they're raising each other up, how things such as victory gardens are extremely welcome in those areas. I think because the mindset is different, because they are still in a we mindset mentality.
But Jerica, I think what's very important is when we take a look, we've really got to look with our eyes open because we tend to romanticize a lot of things in life. It's just like if we think about war movies, The hero is never the general sitting in the cushy house hundreds of miles behind the front line. The hero is always the sergeant or the corporal that's fighting in the trenches here, although they're not the people that win or lose the war. It's that general in the cushy there that planned the logistics and everything and the tactics that wins or loses the
A
war.
general.
The general. Now, if we take a look though, so
We
as a
should
result,
encourage to produce more generals.
yeah, but here's
I have a few I have a portfolio and a few letters of people calling me Warrior Joan or
Yes.
yeah. But here's the thing. Take a look. We do have an example. Look at China. Okay, now a lot of people say, no, you can't look at that. They don't have the freedoms. My travels in China show that that's a lot of propaganda, that the freedoms there in many cases are greater than the typical freedoms that we experience. But the main thing here is that they do a we planning. If we take a look here, I was looking at the AI. Who told me about this? Just recently, somebody sent me a video that they've developed an AI tool, automated tractor that's a tree planting tractor, and it is recovering entire level areas the size of U.S. states that are being planted in a year and being regreened and stopping the deserts and so forth. And it's all being done with AI that goes and plants these and it cares for all these little seedlings and stuff like that. Mind-boggling. So there, and if we look at what they're doing with the transportation systems, what they're doing with the education systems, all of these different things, there's a plan. Where the struggle comes is when you have a plan, it usually has a contradiction to individualism. So if there's a we, individualism has to conform to some degree to the we. Otherwise, there is no we. And that I think is the big difference. We celebrate individualism above all. Socialism is an evil word.
But that's only in the West, Bill. Only
Yes,
in the West.
no, I agree.
In
I
large
agree.
in Africa and in the East,
Yes.
people you are not permitted to put the individual above the group.
Yes, and that's in Japan very strongly. One of the things that's interesting in Japan is that if a student excels in the class way above their peers, that student is pushed down and saying, no, no, hey, you just stick with your group. So
Everything
people,
has its advantages and disadvantages
right,
as well,
but
but you have to do look at the greater good.
right. It's exactly the greater good and a question of moderation. So
Yeah.
the issue here is right now China has a plan saying, hey, we don't have enough workers anyway, and we have this increasing number of elderly that we've got to care for somehow,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to do it unless we increase productivity dramatically. So they've got a plan to how are they going to be able to have the productivity and the services to care for this increasing army of elderly. And I think we could learn a lot by looking at that. But the main question here for us is let's look at the UN and say, hey, UN, you had a conference at the Doha conference on social development, and you said, hey, we got to go and create and protect jobs. But what are you going to do if that's not that's not a viable path? Why are we going? Because one of the things that the jobs did is it increased the competition and it increased the stratification of society because it said, okay, you've got a good job, you get a lot of pay, therefore you can live good. You don't have that great a job. Maybe you didn't pay enough attention in school. Maybe your parents didn't talk to you enough when you were a little baby, so you didn't develop the language skills, whatever. But you know what? You're going to be down here because you don't have this level of income. And that's what jobs do. That's what education does. It's interesting when I went in to do the registration or the research into education, and I came up and we came to the conclusion of the steps that we talked about the last couple of weeks, how we could increase equality in schools. And AI came back and said, that's not a good idea. The purpose of AI is to segregate the people into different groups. That's the purpose of education. Purpose of education is not to advance everybody. The purpose
Yeah.
of education is to sort the people out into the people that are better quality and the people that are lesser quality.
Yeah, I know. The other day, my daughter was they text a lot. That's how they live their lives. Her and her husband, them and their friends, they text. Oh my God. I said, don't you guys talk? Um, um, so she was showing me, they do all these short terms, short forms of things and all this kind of stuff, and which is obviously good for texting. And I said to her, boy, the masters of the English language would be rolling in their graves today because when they wrote the English language and the verbs and all of this, they had all these rules and exception to the rules and how you spell this for this and that for that and there and where and whether and all this kind of stuff. And I said, what's interesting is they did that to eliminate the poor from the rich, because if you knew the difference and how to spell it, that's exactly what you're saying right
Yeah.
now.
And that still applies. Think of here how many parents of wealthy parents, if their child brings home a friend, and that friend does not have the mannerisms and the spoken language skills and things like that, they're automatically disqualified.
Yeah.
No, you don't want to hang with it. And we see here. Uh, Part of the problem, the education in the United States, is people move in certain neighborhoods, so their kids will go to certain schools. And the general thinking of the people who can afford to do things like that is, oh, I'm going to find the best teachers and the best school. But the reality is when they really dug into the detail, is people go and pick the schools to make sure their kids do not associate with kids they don't want them to associate with. When they tried to implement busing, school busing in the United States because of the Supreme Court decision back 30, 40 years ago, and there was the revolution up in the Boston area about that. And so they said, okay, hey, you wealthy kids, you don't have to get bused into the poor neighborhoods anymore. The parents in the wealthy neighborhood said, no, but that's not good enough. We don't want those poor kids coming into our schools.
Yeah.
And so it was not about
The thing is, I also do another workshop called, orchids, right? And it's not about the flower. It's about the thinking. I've been very fortunate in my life that in the last 45 years that I know quite a diverse set of people on religious base, color base, income base, professional, non-professionals. I just don't care about, I care about the person. And it has really enriched my life, I have to tell you. And my daughter's life too, because she was exposed to so many different people. And I said to her, see people as people first. We're not religious, so it makes it easy to interact with people of different religions because we just want to hear about their religion. And like, for example, right now it's Ramadan, and our next door neighbor that moved in a couple of years ago, well, I guess it was almost 5 years ago, he came over and he gave us these 4 bags of teas, which I never knew they drank, because I used to wonder, how do they say not eating for a whole day? I'd be dead. And so but then he explained it to us, and it's a good thing, right? It's really great to learn. So we took the tea, and we had some honey from Africa that my other friend gave me. So we mixed it, and it was like we sat down, we're having this we in our family we sit down all the time and talk. So it was so great because here we had African honey, and we had biscuits from the West Indies, and we had tea from the Middle East and our Pakistan, but we didn't think of it as like, it was so enriching to learn about other people and not being threatened by them. And so the orchid, I always talk about my own experiences of having known so many people. And the reason I use the orchid analogy is because it's the most successful flower in the world. And it's because it's an open pollination strategy. Like I love plants, as everybody knows. I like to know what is their sexual prowess, right? So they're more sexual than we are. The things they do to get pollinated, I mean, geez, we would call ourselves crazy. But so they have an open pollination strategy where some flowers are very particular to just a type of bee, or the hummingbirds, etc. You see how all this is really great, and so it's the same as knowing different people. If you open
Okay.
yourself to it.
Yeah. But that's very interesting that you do this. I want to go back to Jerica, just hopefully she's going to come back, because she was mentioning here that she's experiencing in the we, getting back to this idea that if we don't get to be a we society, the future looks very bad. And more so than not, because of the fact that there's another species arriving on the planet that is going to displace a big chunk of us. And if we're not a we, and people are only looking to their own survival, that's a very bad outcome. Now, Jerica pointed out that when she sees in a lot of lower income communities, the we still exists in the United States. Actually, here we have to really look at the statistics. The crime rates in low income areas is much, much higher than the crime rates in wealthier neighborhoods. Or maybe it's just because the crimes are taking place more hidden on
Well,
paper
if
and
you
stuff
watch
like that.
crime documentaries, I've tracked this, but Bill, I don't know. Americans have an obsession with the perfect couple, the
Yeah.
perfect neighborhood, the
Yeah.
perfect school, like they live in a different world, and so whenever a crime is committed, they'll say, "No one expected it to happen in this neighborhood," and
Yeah. But it's
so many other.
I think Jerica's actually right. In poorer neighborhoods, the we
Yes,
is definitely
yes,
still
because they
there.
have to.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I
but
live in a poorer
yeah.
neighborhood. There's 14.3 million people in the UK who live in working poverty, mainly white people, many multi-ethnic people, and generally everybody helps each other. And
It
I've noticed that white working class people in rural areas
yeah.
in the UK have a really different sense of community, and they really
Yeah.
help each other.
Well,
I think
it's true to a degree. If we look here in Rotary, for example, rural communities in North America tend to be poorer than suburban communities, and there is much more community cohesion. But that's not poor. If we look into the inner city poverty areas, the crime rates there, the
yeah,
substance abuse rates,
yeah,
the hopelessness.
that's a different level of poor.
Yes, so there could still
Inner
be this
city is
sense of
different.
we, but the sense of we is clashing with people that are looking for me. I got to survive. I'm going to knock that other guy over the head because he's got some food and I don't have any food. And this goes back historically. You can go the Lower East Side in New York City used to be the area where all immigrant waves came through. They would move first into that Lower East Side, and it doesn't make any difference what ethnic group that was. That was always the high poverty, the high crime rate area. Whether that was the Jewish refugees coming in, the crime among themselves, whether that was the Puerto Rican movement, the Italian movement. So we can look today.
Even within the inner cities, oh yes, there are people who commit crime, but the majority of people have a high sense of we.
Yeah, but the thing is, I used to work in Harlem in the South Bronx. I was a door-to-door salesman in my early life, and
You
I
were, I
had
thought you were born rich, Bill.
no. And one of the things that I had to do was every week I had to go into those neighborhoods and collect the money because I was selling newspaper or magazine subscriptions, and I had to go and literally collect the subscription money from people. And here, if you don't know Harlem, Harlem is almost 100% uh, um, African American and Hispanic
I have
American.
been, I have
Yeah.
been.
And well, back in the 1960s, the police would not go individually into Harlem. They would go in squads of at least five. It was
Oh,
like a military
What years
action.
were these?
Huh?
In the 80s, right?
No, this was in the 1960s.
Oh,
1960s. 1960s, the crime rate had gotten so bad. And here I am, a white person at night, walking on the streets, and everybody knows I'm collecting money. And what I found is when it got dark, that if I was in a household where there was a man, that man would walk me to the subway and wait until I got on a subway car here that to get out of the neighborhood. And a lot of it is extreme. And the South Bronx was worse, by the way, than Harlem was
I
in
have to
that
tell my
state.
Harlem story to you. In the 80s, New York City was known to be like one of the worst cities in the world. You probably remember that, the high crime. It was,
Mhm.
we used to compare it to Jamaica, although Jamaica is worse because it only has 1 million people. But my mother decided to go to New York, and she wanted to drive in her spanking new shiny Thunderbird.
Huh.
And so we couldn't let her drive because she's not able to drive that far. So we wanted to go. So okay, Glenn and I decided we'll drive with her. There was a detour when we reached New York, and it detoured into Harlem. And everybody told us, do not go to, but it detoured, and we ended up in the middle of Harlem. In this spanking, it wasn't even 2 weeks old, a big Thunderbird. A white guy with a non-white woman, like, and I said, I was like so scared because I'd seen so many movies about how bad Harlem was, and I was scared as hell. I'll admit it. My husband goes, calm down. I said, they're gonna kill you and they're gonna take me. And he's like, well, if it's gonna happen, and he's calm as hell. So we're stuck in a traffic jam, and I thought, okay, you know, we're dead. And I have to say, I'm here, obviously I'm not dead. They were nothing that the movies had propagated. We asked them for information. They went out of the way to give us directions and which way, how to get back to where we were. It was, and I was like, that was the first time. I mean, it was 1980. I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm never going to believe propaganda again, ever, because these people were nothing. Yes, crimes happen everywhere, but it just opened up my eyes that you can't judge people,
By
at all.
groups. Yeah.
No.
You mentioned the 80s. In the early 80s, I was living in Indiana at the time, but my parents were living in Maine. But having been born in New York and my parents grew up in New York, I decided to drive my kids, who had only come to the United States a little early. My kids were born outside the United States. And I decided I wanted to show them where their family came from. And the route that I picked actually took us driving through the Bronx in New York, and which was considered probably still is considered the worst neighborhood in New York. And I went to the street where my grandfather used to live, and as a kid, I would always be there watching the elevated trains go by their window in their apartment and so forth. And I always remembered that neighborhood. Oh, it was a great place to go in the Grand Concourse and buy cheesecake and New York cheesecake and these things. So I decided, great, I'm going to drive them. And I think it was Fordham Road or Jerome Avenue, one of those streets. It was a wider street. And we had to zigzag with the car between all the burnt out cars that were scattered around the streets. It was that bad. It looked like the pictures you're seeing coming out of Tehran and Lebanon. It it was horrible. And in there's sections in Philadelphia still that my wife was blown away to see that in the city, entire rows of apartment buildings, they had blankets where doors and windows should have been, and people are living in those types of situations. So it is true that perhaps there's a certain degree of more but there is a much, much higher crime rate, physical crime rate. And we have to look, those are the cities where fewer than 10% of the kids ever achieve grade level.
Uh-huh.
So in schools, which means their options to be something other than a gang member and a criminal are greatly reduced. So these are scenarios, and in Europe here, Aaliyah, it is different. It's very different. We look at the education successes, for example, in Finland. This is possible because the poverty and the segregation by poverty in Europe is nowhere near what it is in the U.S. The U.S. here, they had to put the police under state control in a major city in New Jersey because the police were saying, I can't, it's too dangerous. I can't continue to be a policeman in this community because we're just targets to be killed. And that's a fairly large city in New Jersey. So the bottom line is to take all this from all this negative talk. We've got to get back to the positive. And so the positive
I'm going to
is
give an example of a we that was so inspiring to me to get us back on. So when COVID happened, um, there was a rush in our city. I think it happened across Canada, but in our city, pe people rush. It's mostly it's 95 at the time. It was 95% white, right? So they rushed to the grocery store and bought up as many toilet paper packages as they could. And like instead of taking one big one, they would take like 10, like one person, not thinking that other people might need it too, right? And I thought, oh my God, how can you be like this? At the same time, there was a drought in Kenya, and the produce, the harvest had not been, it had been like 20% of what they had expected. So, they were like looking at starvation almost. And then there's also the COVID happening at the same time. And one of the most wonderful things happened, though the people in this one village, instead of keeping everything for themselves, not organized just by instinct and caring and the we factor, they walked into the village square and others were coming. They all had the same thing about sharing what they had. And I was like, oh my Lord, they had so little. And I mean, you can say that's the argument too, but they're not a what's in it for me kind of people. I'm just saying the whole thing is that they're thinking my neighbor is going to starve. My neighbor is children, especially children, need to eat. Like I just thought just the thought process. And the only reason I know that story is because
there's a good companion story to go with that. There's a
How
charity
did he
called
make
Mary's
that shot?
Meals. What was that,
sorry.
Kurt?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. There's Mary's Meals is a charity in Scotland that feeds something like 1.5 million of the world's poorest school children every single school day. And mostly in Africa. I think a little bit in South America now. And an interesting statistic came out of the conversations I had with them, that the majority of the donations that they get come from the lowest socioeconomic classes. They get much more donations from the poorest than they do from the wealthiest. And I thought that was a very telling statistic that they had. But the thing for us that's really important is on the we can bring up these anecdotal stories that take place in villages or countries around the world. But when we look at the last 50 years or however long they've been keeping the track of like the World Bank statistics and so forth, we're seeing these are not translating into global aggregate results. And that's what we need, especially when we're looking at global threats, whether it be climate change. It doesn't help us on climate change to go and say, okay, that communities, they've got all the fresh water they're going to need. They got all the stuff. They got a nice climate and so forth. They're okay. Because the winds and the polluted atmosphere and global warming is going to affect everybody. So we've got to make the we become a global we. We've got to go with regards to artificial intelligence. I've gone and tried to get AI to project what's going to be the impact on sub-Saharan African countries if AI and robots go and take over the developed countries. It's going to mean, number one, all those startup companies that are growing food and producing goods because of low labor costs, they're doing that to make money by shipping it to those developed countries. That business is going to go away because the robots and the AI are going to be cheaper than even the cheapest human labor in other countries. So all of those income, that export income into those countries is going to stop. On top of that, here, all the people who lost their jobs and are afraid they're going to lose their job tomorrow are going to stop donating to charities for aid to those countries. And then the governments who are having trouble because they're not getting enough tax revenues anymore, they are going to cut their aid off as well. So you're going to see the developed countries, they don't have the internal GDP to be able to go and provide some kind of a universal basic income to enable their populations to simply survive. And they don't have the level of production to be able to satisfy all the needs of their countries. We see who suffers the most on the whims of the climate change. It's those places that don't have the mechanization and so forth, so that if the floods and the droughts and so forth, they affect the people with the least automation and the least ability to intervene, and they're subject to nature. And unfortunately, nature can be very cruel, especially when we've messed with it on such a big scale as we do with global warming. So it's very important that when we look to see how do we share the benefits of this planet? How do we share the benefits of the natural resources? How do we share in the benefits of the production from robots and so forth? We got to share with everybody. We can't just say we're just going to share it with the neighbors in our neighborhood because the rest of the world, what are we going to do about them? And we have to make sure we don't get into a situation where, okay, we'll share among us, but those others out there are a threat to us. So we have to eliminate them because that's the way tribes always used to think in the past. The tribes used to think it's a we, our tribe. But that tribe over there, they're a danger to us. So we've got to get rid of them. The Bible talks about here the king of the Hebrews that wasn't allowed to be the king in the promised land because he refused to kill the women and children of some group they they passed through or conquered. So there's a lot of romanticism out there about let's
Yeah.
get back to the way things were and so forth. We
Well, I
we
wasn't
really
talking so much about going back to how.
The biggest thing that we have to look at is what do we want to create? We're
yes,
living now. Forget these other fools in the past and the
right,
way they
Yeah.
did things in the past.
right,
How is it that we want to create the future?
right.
And
But
when we
that
get the
we
kids
that that
and
we
everybody else,
yeah, but
when we
that
get the
we
kids,
starts off with the multilateralism aspect that it's the greater we. We have to be very cautious against the small we.
of course, well, the big thing is again, getting kids inspired to be
Mhm.
able to create what it is that they would like to have in life. They want to have peace and happiness. They want to have the joy of of walking where they want to walk without any trouble and so on and so on and so forth. They can create it when they have an opportunity to focus on that kind of a thing. Why do we just focus on the science of this kind of science or that kind of science or this or that or the other thing that won't do us any good going off to Mars and everything? Why, let's settle our issues here instead of worrying about getting off somewhere else. Spending the money where the value is for our kids, for our planet, for uplifting all of humanity and all of life.
We basically want everyone to be happy,
Yes.
don't
Yes,
we? Ultimately, I know that doesn't sound very modern or whatever, but in historically, people have always forced themselves through education, work jobs for 40, 50 years, retired, got to a certain point, or whatever they've done. And then, some people think, well, was it worth it? I mean, I know I do after, spending so many years studying pharmacy and then working. And now I find knitting more worthwhile.
You know,
So,
we have to be very careful though, because we have to, again, we have to, what is it? You have to study history to avoid repeating it.
yes.
And we have to remember that one of the big pleasures, one of the things that leaders of societies distributed or shared for the pleasure of their populations was to watch the people be eaten by lions and killed. How many Romans, the entertainment was, let's go watch some Christians be killed, or let's go watch this group be
well, yeah, I mean, people do battle on X, don't they? That's the same thing. A
yeah.
lot of people.
So
Uh,
so we have to, but it's very important that we plan. Those of us who agree with what Kurt was just saying, we got to plan. How do we get everybody to agree with us on where we're going? Or how do we figure out how we're going to take them there, even if they don't agree?
Yeah,
Uh,
because not everybody is going to agree,
yeah,
Yeah, because
not
when you
every,
say, Alia, when you say somebody we want happiness, there are people who just want to make money, and if they double their money, they're happy. If they double their money in 3 months, they're happy. Like, I think that we have to define, not think about everybody, like we have to identify what it is that we're bringing to the table and get a way for people to hear it and let them buy in.
yeah.
Um, that's what has to happen, because you'll find that you can debate what happiness is. You can um, contentment. I use that word, like I'm contented with my life, so I don't need to watch what other people
you
have.
see, I define it as a lack of materialism, okay, because that has just infected
But
the
some
whole.
people are happy with being able to have things that they enjoy. What I'm trying to say is that it's okay to do all of those things, but you don't have to demean someone else,
Yeah.
and you don't have to make someone else feels like they're not as good as you, or let them, give them a pathway to create what they think would make them
Yeah,
happy.
that
Um,
is true freedom. True freedom is giving people the power. That is a part of happiness,
Yeah,
so
but
that
here's
people
the
can
here's
follow their own path.
yeah, but here's the thing we have to watch out for. There are many studies out there that show the number one motivator for most people is to be ahead of your peers. The number
That's all
one
because of
motivator for most
sociological
people.
That's
we're
because
looking.
they've been trained that way
That's
since
okay. It's
elementary
however we
school.
got there is immaterial. The fact is that we are there. And Kurt, to your point with the kids, the problem is that right now, potentially, we can write the kids off because the kids aren't going to have a future if the world ends in 5 years. So, and we have to take into consideration that worst case that the world might end in 5 years. So, what do we do to make sure that those kids are going to live to grow up long enough to have influence in the world? We can't ignore that possibility. So but the number one thing is we've got to figure out how do we get people to be willing to ratchet down the be ahead of the Joneses, right?
These Joneses, geez, I want to wring their necks. The thing is that you're not the Joneses, you're you.
Yes, but
You
the
know,
problem is that's not what the others
I
will
I
say
know.
that.
Like people say, my neighbor has a car and it's, like that's what makes them happy. What makes you happy? Like stop watching what your neighbor has.
You know
Yeah.
what? I think that's a function of the generation that we are. I think
Mm,
younger
I think it's been
people
around a
are
long
less
time.
like that. No, but
It's
I think people younger than us are less like that,
yeah.
oh,
keeping
Yes,
up with the Joneses.
it's true. They want it.
I think you're right until they hit college. And then you see here in the competitive thing about thinking about, oh, I'm going to have to go get a job. How am I going to go and put myself at the top of the hiring list?
Well,
How?
actually, I saw on TV the other day in the UK, they're debating the fact that university graduates are going straight onto benefits.
Oh
There's no
yeah,
jobs for them. There's no jobs
yes,
for them. So this
absolutely
has been a secret, hidden statistic that for years the college graduates have been taking on debts of up to nearly £500,000 to get educated, and they've gone straight onto
right.
benefits.
But we keep in mind, why do people go to college in the first place? Studies show 80% of people who attend U.S. universities are there to get ahead in a career, get ahead of the others. They think here, okay, if I can get a good GPA, if I can get a degree from a better university, I'm going to have a better job chance. I'm going to get promoted more. But the idea here is for the first time, last year was the first time in the United States that the hiring of graduates dropped dramatically, 14%, I think, for law graduates. They went through all the different categories. There's a video I'll probably try to see and post that discussing here the U.S. Decline of universities. Even Harvard is having trouble finding enough students now, and the
Really?
yeah,
Harvard?
yeah. And the projection is that within the next few years, you could see 40-50% drop in university students in the US, partially because Trump is making it very hard for foreign students to study in the United States. Another stupid move because almost all the patents in the United States are from people that came from outside the United States. But the other thing is impacting the tools that we've been talking about. Think of what that does for universities. Sal Khan, the founder of Khan Academy, and people, he got three bachelor's degrees simultaneously from MIT. And the question is, how on earth can you get three degrees from MIT, one of the toughest universities? And he said the secret was easy. I just never went to class. He said
But you
that,
see, then he's missed out on making lifelong friends and contacts at university because he never went to class.
well, that's true. But the thing about it is that he became famous for that reason and has been able to, I think it's now 160 million people are using his tool.
Yeah, my brother uses his tool.
Alia, you can have friends. When I was in high school, most girls, I went out with a university guy, so the everything was about friends. I had more absences from school than I had attendances.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh.
So schools serve multiple purposes, and one of the purposes is building networks, and that was the what the Ivy League really that was their pitch. You go to the Ivy League to build networks that are going to serve you later in life, and that's why you find in major cities you find the Harvard Club, the Yale Club, the Princeton Club, so that these clubs continue to foster those kinds of associations. And you find that top level business people they do business with people they know. And I can't identify a lot of that because I never spent more than 6 months on the campus of a university. And but the yeah, the I think back to our core issue that if we're seeing here that in a way the world we know is likely to end within the next 5 years, even if it's 15 years. 15 years is like that. It's nothing. Just think here of when was COVID? That was 6 years ago,
I know.
right?
I know.
So time goes so fast. If it's 15 years, if we start to see college enrollments starting to drop because the jobs, entry-level jobs are disappearing. And so right now we've got a higher unemployment among college graduates than we do among non-college graduates, other than the high school dropout types out of the poor neighborhoods. But the high school graduates have a lower unemployment rate than university graduates right now in the U.S. And if that trend continues, there's not the jobs aren't out there, and yet the costs are so high. Universities are going to say, how do I reduce the costs? Oh, let me get rid of the professors and replace them with AI. That'll be one action they'll take. Another action they might take is let's decouple right now, for example, what Google's developing here with their test prep for SATs, they're extending that to AP. AP is advanced placement courses that you can take in high school that you get college credits for. So you can go and get up to a year's worth of university credits before you ever get to the university. If you take on top of that the CLEP, which is college level examinations, you can get up to another year. My son did that. My son, by testing and taking the CLEP and taking the AP, he started the university as a junior. So he should have finished in 2 years. It took him 5, but that's because he followed on the other side of the friendship part of university more than the academic side. But the fact of
Well,
the
I
matter,
I missed a lot of school and I rarely went to any uni lectures.
yeah,
I taught myself
yeah.
and with uni I just concentrated on the social life and
Yeah.
I taught myself my degree.
Well, Sal Khan, what he did is he taught himself as well, and got his 3 degrees. But now take a look at the tools we've been talking about, and imagine here how in every university class, they say to the professors, "Hey, record your lectures. Let the students watch your lectures outside of class, and then discuss deeper when you're in class." Okay, but how many professors are going to say? I can make the best videos that anybody can of a tutorial on my subject. Or they're going to say, "Oh, that guy there, he's got 10 staff helping him make the most best professional video to get the messages across. I'm going to use their video. Why should I make another video?" So in
Mm.
the end, you're going to get a handful of videos that are the best videos, explainers for every subject out there. So if you've got that, and on top of that, they're making it the videos are bi-directional, so you can talk to the video and have the video answer your questions. You can go and ask the video, "Hey, check out what I still am weak in and what I need to focus on." And now make custom videos for the things I need to focus on. Though that's what we saw. We saw that is now becoming available with these tools. Next year, they're all going to be here. So if that's the case, and I can learn whatever that 4-year university program is, if I could physically learn it in 6 months, why am I going to go spend 4 years and spend $500,000 to get what I can get for almost free in the next 6 months and
And you can
start
do it
work,
from home.
right?
Well,
So
I thought of this when I was in high school. Why can't they come up with a place that I can sit at home and do this?
right. So
But
we have to look at
I
this and
wanted to
say,
say, they, it, anyway, go ahead, Bill. Sorry, I
yeah.
I
interrupted.
actually told my teachers at high school that I could teach myself better.
Well, I got an A in high school here for book reports for books that I made up. I didn't have time to go find a book on the subject, so I just wrote my own book on the subject and I put in the book report. And unfortunately, my book report was picked as the best book report in the class, and then the teacher wanted to get the book. So I went from an A to a zero on that.
Oh, how old were you when you did that?
I was either a junior or senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
I
You're
wrote it.
Good
The book
Anyway,
call.
I
was
have to
about
go, but
the
I'll end this by saying a little joke. Is this boys? I'm fascinated with boys because my husband and I have been watching for the last 20 years the reactions. We try. A lot of women tend to want to feminize boys, and they're little characters. Like instead of trying to develop them as they are, and so we've been watching them on different channels, people we know, and they're just fascinating to me. So this teacher asked a class to write. There are two jokes. One was the teacher asked the kid, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Everybody, oh, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a nurse. And this little boy was quiet, and the teacher says, "And so, Johnny, what do you want to be?" He goes, "I don't want to grow up." And so he was like, I was like, "What a great answer!" And there was this other little boy. They asked to write about what they see in the future um, as their job, and this little boy is sitting there, and everybody's writing. Teacher's curious, and he says, "So, why aren't you writing anything?" He goes, "Well, when I grow up, my secretary will do it."
Yeah, no, that's it's going to be I think a fascinating world. I'm thinking of offering in the neighborhood where I now live to invite the kids from the neighborhood. First of all, if they are planning to take an SAT, to show them how they can use the SAT tool and avoid spending a lot of money. They're saying
Yeah,
here that the JEE exam in India, that the test prep in India is like $1 billion industry in India. That is going to be
Yeah.
totally disrupted by Google offering for free the
India
better.
is on a different level when it comes to like tiger moms and parents for you have to be an engineer, you have to be, like it's crazy. And the other thing too, like one disappointment, big disappointment, I'm East Indian, but I used to love being Indian because I always thought that if you were Indian, you were accepting. That's how I was taught. You're accepting of our religion. It's because it's just we have this philosophy, all paths leads to God. They can talk about atheists, so I don't know where I go because we don't have a path for atheists. But I find that in the last 20 years, that has changed tremendously. And I don't, I'm very ashamed of that. So,
Yeah.
In
I had a
India,
woman from India, an Indian woman that was working for me once, who applied for a vacation. It was a period where there was a lot of religious conflict where a lot of Indians were attacking Muslim villages in
yeah,
northern India
yeah,
and literally killing everybody.
yeah.
And she put in vacations so that she could go kill some Muslims before the
Oh,
fighting stopped. That's
yeah.
what
No,
I
she
mean,
it's terrible,
literally
honestly,
said
don't
that.
don't
terrible.
don't be
Yeah,
offended. But when I was about 30 years ago, I used to look at India and think, what a fantastic place, what a fantastic country and culture, and they were so advanced, and they were all about everyone living together.
Yeah,
and
that's how I
they
was brought up.
embraced everybody,
Yeah,
and I really used to admire it, thinking, I wish Pakistan could be like that, because
yeah,
Pakistan is basically just still owned by the feudal class. It's not even a
right.
democracy in any way. And they won't eat dinner with the people that work for them. They're
Yeah,
considered the slave class. So I really used to look towards India, but then when Modi came in, I was so
yeah.
disappointed.
It is. It is very.
But
They're going the wrong path.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
interesting thing is everywhere in the world has got a mixture of all kinds because there's a huge movement in schools in India. There's the the program to clean India, Swachh Bharat, I think something like that. And
Something Bharat.
yeah, and so that's Modi started that whole thing of encouraging everybody to clean up India. There's a program called Design for Change out of Ahmedabad that encourages middle schools kids to go find a problem in their community and fix it. And these kids do things that are so amazing that like a group of 10 and 11-year-olds said one of the things that bothered them most in their community was that the roads are in such bad condition that there's potholes everywhere. So they decided, these kids went out there and they decided to fix all the roads. So they went out and started repairing all the roads in their city.
Mm.
10-year-old kids doing that. And they got to the point where 40,000 schools in India compete in a competition to see what group of kids can come up with the best idea to improve their community and actually do it. And
Yeah.
some of them do programs to teach the elderly to read in their communities, to fix the roads, buildings.
Yeah, there are some great projects in India,
Yeah. But
definitely.
here's the thing that was very interesting. I said, here, let's combine with Rotary and let's go out and encourage everybody to find the best way to clean up their cities, and which included sanitation facilities, not just garbage and things, but sanitation facilities, clean water for everybody, and so forth.
Yeah, their
So,
toilets are disgusting.
yeah. So I
The
said,
public
let's make
toilets.
that the priority. Well, you had here the Nadia district in northeast India, which is borders on Bangladesh. That's a population of 6 million people. 40% of the people have no toilets. They defecate in the open, or at least that was the case prior to 2012. And a new magistrate came in, mobilized the kids to mobilize their parents, their mothers and aunts, and they went and built over 365,000 toilets in 1 year. So the women did.
Wow.
And he had the kids put up walls of shame in every village and write down the names of any people seen defecating in the open. Because it was more than that, the people believed that a toilet that gets reused is not clean.
Yeah,
Defecating in the open is
yeah,
clean every time.
yeah,
But the amount of stunted
All right,
children.
is that why?
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So the amount of stunted children was very, very high because of that. And there's 600,000 children a year die due to the consequences of open defecation in India, or at least at that time. So anyway,
right.
they reduced the open defecation from 40% of the population to less than 1% in 1 year. And this guy was honored by the UN in 2013 for the first large scale district in India to eliminate open defecation. But I wanted to point out that this design for change, when I said, okay, why don't you pick that as the theme and get all the kids in all the schools in India to all make it their project to clean up and throughout all of India to accomplish this Swachh Bharat in one
Yeah.
year. And they said no. And I said, what? What?
Wow.
And they said no. It's because it's from Modi. The southern half of India rejects Modi. So you've
Really?
got a total north and south split. The southern states of India, in education in India is totally separated by state. and the southern states said they would not do anything that would support any program that was associated with Modi.
Oh
It's
my
good.
word.
Yeah. It's
Anyway, Bill, I have to run, but
yeah, no, I think we've
uh,
we
I
have.
have yeah, I have just a couple things to say. Um, Unfortunately, it happens here, but um, Iran has said to the U.S. that it will open up the strait if they change the purchasing oil from the petrodollar to the UN dollar. I thought that's an interesting, I think, because you and I have been talking about the UN dollar uh, a few years ago. So I didn't. That was the first time it was on national news. So I thought that was interesting. Um, and the second thing is I'm speaking with Lucinka on the 17th. So I don't know if you've been speaking with her.
No, actually, here I've been sending her some messages and I haven't been getting any replies recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I asked for it because we haven't. It's someone that is Alia. It's someone that from the Common Cluster. So
Okay.
I asked her if everything was okay. I've been sending her a message, no response, and she said she'll speak to me on the 17th. So I just thought I should let you know.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good to know. I'll try to reach out again because
Yeah.
I have gotten the materials now where we talked about the CFA plan. The
Yeah.
supplemental income for all. It was the idea that take people who are poor and give them a little bit of a supplemental income so that that would pull them over above the poverty level. So the idea was you get your primary income through your job and you get a supplementary income that would be a little bit of a boost. And what we've been looking at here is because of this development with AI and the move towards the universal basic income, the supplemental income should be your work. So that some people are going to be able, because they're an entertainer or they're a sports figure or whatever, there's going to be some people that are going to be able to have incomes, but the majority of people are not going to be able to have a regular income. So you should have your basic income has to be provided as a societal thing. And then your supplemental is whatever you can do be above that. So it's got to flip those two. And I think here Lasinka got that. And she had asked me back in January if I could speak at one of the meetings, but I didn't see her message until it was too late.
Yeah.
But uh, I think it's time now. We've got the
Yeah.
evidence and we've got the discussion.
Yeah.
We've got the proper people are starting to talk about it. Even if I think the UN has created now a committee related to the AI situation.
Yeah. So anyway, our conversations 2 or 3 years ago are coming to fruition. So I just thought I'd let you know.
Yeah, no, appreciate that because I think we need to bring this discussion back to the Commons Cluster because
Yeah.
what we're really saying is the original philosophy of the Commons Cluster went back to the idea where communities shared things in commons.
Yeah.
Whether that was the grazing area or the work in the fields or whatever, when we went from being hunter-gatherers to being having stable locations, and it's getting back to that idea, and that's that greater we that we're talking about. That, and if we look at Norway, we look even at Alaska, which a Republican administration in Alaska implemented the sovereign funds based on the oil, so that if you want to go and get oil in Alaska, you've got to pay into this fund, and then that's split up as a dividend to every single man, woman, and child in Alaska gets their annual dividend out of that, and that is
You know,
probably
countries with significant diaspora have that sense of global we, you know.
um, the diaspora is very interesting because you've got a group of people. I lived in New Jersey next to the biggest South Asian community, I think, in the United States, um, focused around Edison and Island in New Jersey. I used to attend the multi-faith um, dinner they used to host in December, and it was interesting. They had the people from the embassy of Pakistan and India, Sri Lanka was usually there, Nepal. So the South Asian community, and the there are certain people within that are very much looking, how can we help the country we came from? But then you've got a lot of the people on that are looking and saying, no, I'm building my better life here. I don't have time to
Yeah,
worry about where I originally came from. And it's
yeah.
interesting to see the size of the houses in that neighborhood in when we drive through,
Mm.
because we drive through to a place where we eat a lot, and we drive through those neighborhoods, and it's just these mansions are just amazing. The size of some of the mansions there in the South Asian community.
I know.
They like
It's
big, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, though,
I gotta go.
yeah,
So
we are almost 4 hours into this again. Ay, ay, ay. So, but I thank you for hanging in there. I think it was an interesting
it
discussion
was, it
today.
was, it was. I thank you for those links, especially for the website. That's going to be very helpful for me.
Uh-huh. Okay, good. Very good.
All right.
Okay,
Bye
then.
bye.
Till next
okay. Take
time.
care. Have a good
Bye
week.
now.
Bye.
Yep, bye.